everybody was pretty much YouTube famous except us at the time. We called ourselves Team Big Whoop. Part of our brand was everywhere we went, we just stickered the shit out of it. Can I curse? But I brought a new sticker, and it was like a little teeny tiny version of the Big Whoop sticker, and it said Tinywhoop. I was a full-time traveler for really long, for like a decade. It was the only thing I did. And
What?
my buddy talked me into hopping on a train. We would always hop trains and go long ways and then hitchhike to get home. And I just realized that I was more of a hitchhiker than a train rider. 10 years living that life. And I had one summer where I did a 10,000-mile summer hitchhiking and slept outside almost every night. I spent 6 months traveling in Europe and did a bunch of hitchhiking there too. It's a longer story than that, but anyway, we got arrested and...
They call me the tiny whoop, I am the tiniest of all the little whoops in the whole wide world. Yeah, I'm the one that wants to be flown by everyone, cause I'm the beginning.
Well, good evening to you. Welcome back, everybody, to In the Loop. This episode of In the Loop is actually episode number 2, a revisit of a previous guest. You know him, you love him, Jesse from Tinywhoop, Mr. Tinywhoop, you could even call him. Tonight, we will be doing things a little differently around here. Slaps are paused. Alerts are paused. Robot Lady will be off. There will be no music or anything like that. We will just be focusing on our guest. This episode is going to be kind of focused about what you saw in the beginning of the little preview there in the top. So hopefully that's a little bit of a teaser for you. Let me hop over into the Discord and see what these fellas are up to. I hope you guys enjoy. And let's get over there and see what these boys are doing. Hello, gentlemen. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hi. Oh, you're much louder now. Yes. Perfect. Okay, now I can hear you. How you doing, Jesse? Good to see you, man.
Terrific. Are we live?
Yes, we are live. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. And what's up, everybody in the Luposphere?
1 sec. Let me
Coined a new phrase.
I just coined that. I didn't even plan that.
Well, I like it, and we're stealing it. So there's that. That's settled. It's long time no talk, bud.
I mean, we've talked, you and I, but yeah, long time no...
In this format here.
No public chat.
Long time no In the Loop.
Yes.
It has been a while. As a matter of fact,
I'm honored to be back.
The last time you were on, it was December 3rd of 2022. It was the end of the year.
Dang.
Oh, all right.
Where was Jesse in December of 2022? You had just announced your engagement. When we talked to you, I believe you had already been engaged for a bit, but you made it official.
Yeah, and actually, if I remember right, if you go back and watch that, which I know you recently did, but you already knew that we were pregnant.
I did.
And you were like, Jesse, is there something you want to tell me? And I was like, yeah, we're engaged, because I wasn't at the point where I could talk about it. Like I couldn't go public. It wasn't that I was worried about something. There's like a few people in the inner circle that just could not find out that way. They needed to hear it from my mouth. Otherwise, I would have been wide open about it. But yeah, now I'm a daddy. Now I have baby George is 14 months old 5 days ago.
That's incredible.
Today he said butterfly, which is his first 3-syllable word.
That's fantastic.
So that's where he's at. Not walking yet, but he's scooching along stuff. And he loves to hold your pinkies and walk around.
Oh, that's great.
He's a pretty good boy.
So
awesome.
So far, how's fatherhood been?
The best times. The best of times, the worst of times.
I told you, man. Yeah, it balances.
Yeah,
it balances. The good with the
it
bad.
Is the best.
You get a little bit
it's
of both.
the best. You know, we're not... George is a rough baby sleep-wise.
Yeah.
I'm told he's rougher than most, and that's just a thing, but he is so much fun. And I just got done putting him down right before I came down to Scramble to get my audio and video going, and He was so much fun, just laughing his ass off. He is a giggly little funny boy.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
Hey, by the way, what's up, George? If you're watching this in the future, thanks for being such a good boy.
So the other thing that has changed in your life is your background. We're not looking at the Tinywhoop HQ anymore behind you there.
Well, this is the new Tinywhoop, or the sort of temporary Tinywhoop HQ. It was because of George that I brought the biz home, so I can spend more time with baby George.
I was going to say, you know,
here's
what's
the
funny
thing,
is
like,
in our last chat that we had on the show, you had mentioned this was kind of a long-term dream of yours, is how you described it, was to have the business
I've always
at
wanted to
home.
work from home.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to work from home. I've never had it at home, and I've always been jealous. I mean, every one of my siblings has gotten to have their job at home during baby time,
Yeah.
and it's just,
Makes
you
life
know,
a lot easier
I felt
when you can
like,
be there.
yeah, I just started to feel like all my dreams are coming true, and I have this incredible family, and if I worked really hard and cut tons of sleep, I'd get like a maximum of 3 hours a day with them, and I felt like it just
It's not enough.
felt it's just BS.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I have my dream job, you know. Tiny Whoop is so much fun, and it's getting so much more fun right now. I'm sure, you know, we'll probably talk about everything up in with Tiny Whoop or whatever, but it's I can't complain at all because it's so much fun. But I couldn't stand leaving George and Caitlin in the morning and then getting home. You know, George goes to bed at 6:15 so that he can have a billion interruptions in the middle of the night and still get his 10 to 11 hours that a little baby needs.
Yeah, buddy.
So he's going to bed at 6, and if I get off work at 4 or 5, it's just like a fraction, and I want my son to know me so much more than that. So yeah,
Oh, that's good. That's important.
I'm not sitting in front of the usual sparkly lights, but I want to do this for at least a few months and live the daddy life I always wanted. In the meantime, you know, it was, I don't know, you never came to Tiny Whoop HQ. Actually, I think neither of you were actually in the other Tiny Whoop HQ.
yeah.
That was actually
Nope.
the third Tiny Whoop HQ. This is the temporary fourth. And yeah, the third Tiny Whoop HQ was something like 6 years. And anytime I wanted to procrastinate, I worked on the environment and tucked more miscellanea into the little dusty corners.
Yeah.
And moving out of Tiny Whoop headquarters was the most incredible ordeal of my entire life.
I
I got to a
imagine.
point, I mean, I said the other day, if I would have known how much work it was, I never would have even started. I don't know what I would have done, but
To
it
move
was
out of
just
there,
like
you're
this
saying?
long slog. Oh my God, yeah. Moving out of there was, you know, every time there was an invitational there, every time there was a party, I would spend a lot more time working on the place as a venue, and it was kind of like my favorite way to procrastinate was to put some love into the environment, and that just meant it was one of those move outs where at the end you just have like 14 boxes of absolute miscellany,
Yeah.
and I had 6 weeks to do it, but it was still just
Quite the
an
undertaking.
unbelievable job.
Oh, I can
Unbelievable.
imagine.
You
Well, yeah, you
you
spent
wouldn't
6
you wouldn't
years
believe it.
decorating a place to tear it down in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and like I say, that was my primary procrastination, was like putting work into how I wanted the bar to feel, how I wanted the workstations to feel, and you know, millions and millions of hours shopping thrift stores for lamps. I brought millions of lamps out of there. You know, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I've got a gigantic basement in my new home, and it's packed. I've got a 3 to 4 car garage that's packed as well.
Jeez, man.
This is inventory back here.
Yeah.
But you know, the old Tiny Whoop in all of its glory, the giant museum has not moved down here. The Lady Luck has not moved down here. So you're kind of coming to me right now in a strange interim period, but a really good time as well.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad we get to kind of catch you in this rare moment.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into you and your story before all of this, before Tiny Whoop. Last we spoke,
Yeah.
you had kind of started to tell us a story.
Teased us.
Quite a teaser, yeah, I'd say. There was quite a few teasers you dropped there. So I had a lot of questions about it. Whatever you're willing to or talk to about or remember, whatever,
Yep.
You make that call.
I'm an open book.
But
I would say I accept all questions, but I understand this is a format where we completely ignore the chat. Is that still the case?
Yes, until the end. We'll take questions and stuff from them at the end. But yeah, otherwise, I just want this to be a good listening experience for anyone. So I feel like the interrupting with chat.
And sorry, bros. But yeah, love it.
Yeah, sorry. That's our rule. You can take it out on us. But anyways, so you had started to talk to us about this. You had a friend, and we never learned the friend's name, but you had a friend who convinced you to hop on a train for the first time.
That's my friend Jack.
Your friend Jack. Okay.
Jack.
Okay.
Jack. Whenever I talk about Jack, I say he was the greatest. He is the greatest adventurer in America. He did not pass away. Jack was one of my most inspirational friends. I met him when we were studying philosophy together. We were in all the the highest philosophy classes together, and so we became sort of best friends. And he was just an absolute wild animal. I couldn't believe the way he lived his life and the weird places he found himself. And at one point, he decided he was going to become a hobo, like a hobo from, I've read up on the history of hitchhiking and train riding, and I understand there's a lot of different eras, and the era that I experienced was way different than, a lot of people talk about there was this time that was like the heyday of hitchhiking, and there was this heyday of train hopping, and the way I experienced it was obviously really different than that.
Yeah.
But he was obsessed with the Beats and Jack Kerouac, and I became obsessed with them too. And at one point, he did a speech on hopping trains, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it with you, as research for his speech.
Yeah.
And the first time we did it, I tried really hard to bail. And it would have really changed the direction of my life forever. Because we waited 14 hours for the first train.
Oh my God.
We just kept waiting. I think, you know what I mean? And we're like in and out of sleep and trying to eat, and we've got our bags ready. And
are you in a train yard waiting for that train, or are you out on a random section of track waiting?
No, in the middle of Fort Collins, Colorado, where there was this weird spot. The train tracks came right down the middle of a street with cars passing on either side, and freight trains that went for 1,000 miles north and hundreds of miles south came right through the middle of town. And we ran alongside them, and we would hop on the ladders and just ride a few blocks and then get off. And we had done a lot of that, but we'd never gotten on with bags to go long distance.
Yeah.
It's such a wild concept.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it blew my mind. So I was trying really hard to bail, and Jack just looked at me, and he was like, Jesse, I have told way too many people I was going to do this. I cannot bail.
Peer pressure's a bitch.
Yeah.
So
anyway, Jack was an animal. He wasn't just a hitchhiker and a train hopper. He was he did this thing called top hopping, which is where you get electromagnets and climb up on top of a semi and ride on top of a semi.
Why?
And he's like, Jesse, it's the next thing. It's called top hopping. He did that, and he also made a sport out of riding in like auto carrier semis.
Yeah.
What?
So like next to the cars.
That's so random.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, so
just looking for a free ride
so
somewhere.
Inspirational. He just wanted an adventure really, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
I didn't ever want it as bad as him, but I was definitely super intrigued.
Do you know what happened to Jack?
Yeah. He's still in a way homeless. He's been Jack isn't just an adventurer and a traveler. He's also a hardcore animal lover. He's a really passionate person, and at one point he disappeared for 6 months. And another friend of mine named Morgan also disappeared for 6 months. And I was contacted from his parents and his friends, and they were all asking, "Where's Jack?" Because they knew I traveled with him, and I literally had no idea. And then he turned up 6 months later, married to this girl who had disappeared, and they were on the road together, and they had started a pet sitting gig,
Oh, no way.
and they're still doing it. So they do
Damn.
is they know they're right now they're in touch with all these rich people because they're hardcore animal lovers.
Yeah.
I think Jack is sort of against the philosophy of owning a pet. He doesn't want to buy into that, but he's down to care for other people's pets. And he has all these extremely rich clients in Portland and Seattle and a bunch in Hawaii. So he just jumps between those three places with his wife,
Wow.
living in super rich houses
Yeah.
and taking care of usually like a bunch of different families and pets at a time.
That's fantastic. That's a crazy
Yeah.
life
Hey.
to live.
He's doing terrific. I know, it's really weird. Yeah, he never settled down.
That's amazing.
Totally
though.
different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No, that's
yeah.
good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you did mention, speaking of your friend Jack being quite the adventurous one, you did mention that both of you were arrested at one point.
That was that same ride, that first ride.
It was on the
I've been
first ride
arrested
that this
several-
happened?
Yeah, I've been arrested several times, but that was the time I mentioned to you last time was my very first ride, and it was like, yeah, we waited 14 hours, and then we jumped into a boxcar, which is a big no-no. First of all, I think riding trains is a big no-no, and it's extremely dangerous. And if I would have really grasped how dangerous it was, I do not want to glorify it. I mean, you can have your adventures and go hitchhiking or whatever, but don't get on trains. And if you do get on trains, definitely don't get into a boxcar, because one of the ways most people die hopping trains is they get in a boxcar, and then the train will go down the road and stop, and the boxcar door will slide shut,
Oh.
and they don't check those sometimes for like months.
Oh, Jesus.
And people
Just
so
get stuck in there.
people pass away in those. But yeah, we got in a boxcar, and we did not like you're supposed to shove a railroad pin into the sliding door. We didn't do that. We just got extremely lucky. And we rode all the way to Cheyenne, which took about 4 hours. It's like a 45-minute drive, but
Yeah.
it took like 4 hours that day. And I had this piece of literature called the Crew Change Guide.
Yeah, you brought that
And
up last
at that
time.
time, you could not get it online, but somebody leaked it online. You can actually probably Google it and find all this information. Like, if you wind up on a northbound train from Fort Collins and you're in Cheyenne, here's exactly where you walk. We walk over by this strip club called the Green Door, and you sit on this mattress in the back, and if you wait there long enough, right behind that strip club is where the trains come and stop right before they take off going either east or west. And so we did that. We waited there, and Jack went in. I did not go in this absolutely disgusting strip club. I didn't even set foot in there. I just chilled outside with some of the other vagrants or whatever. And we got on a westbound train, headed for North Platte, Nebraska was the goal. It probably would have taken us about 10 hours, but it was really, really cold. And at that point, we weren't inside a boxcar, and we weren't in the place you're supposed to ride, which is on the porch of a car called a grainer. You guys know what a grainer is? It's those cars that are shaped like this. I'm trying to look on the camera. I can actually draw one.
Yeah,
for you.
I know what you're talking about. The grain,
Yeah, I know.
the grain
Yeah.
cars, right? With the
Yeah,
where
here.
they come to a funnel on the bottom.
Look at that perfect drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
is
they got the
perfect.
little flat
And
spots
here's
on
the
either
wheels.
side.
Yeah, there's the wheels. And we weren't on the porch, which is right here.
Mm-hmm.
We were up in the grain mounds, which were up here. And
Oh,
in this
yeah.
case, it was granite, like just rock.
Oh,
And it was really, really cold. And we were trying to sleep on it because it was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And after a couple of hours, I was really nervous about being cold. And the coldest I've ever been is on trains, because I was just never smart enough to be prepared, I guess. And when you're riding trains, sometimes they pull off to the side track. You always hear about the side track. Freight trains have different levels of priority. So, like, if you see freight train going by with a bunch of auto carriers, if there's cars on it, that's like $1 billion train, and every other train will get out of the way for that train. So they all get on the side tracks and they sit there, even if they have to sit there for 10 hours. So we were on a low priority train, and it was stopping on the side tracks often. And you just have no idea when it's going to go, when it's going to stay. So because of that, it's kind of stupid to get off the train if you need to take a piss or something.
Yeah.
And so we decided to just like piss off the train. And at one point, there was a train coming finally. So we're on the side tracks, and we could see another train coming right at us. And to be funny, Jack stood on top of the train and pissed onto the other train, including like in full view of the conductor and the engineer in the unit in the front of the train. Just whipped it out, pointed right at him with a big shit-eating grin on his face, and pissed all over like their windshield, and then all the way down like maybe 100 cars.
Oh man!
And I was pretty mad at him for doing that because I was nervous because it was my first time on a train, and our train didn't move again from there until we didn't go any further from there. Our train sat there for a really long time, and then we saw some cars pulling up, and the cars like got out and were flashlights up and down the train. They were looking for us. We got reported, and they were looking for us.
Ah, okay.
And eventually, they found us and made us get down, and we were really cooperative, you know. And they're like, "Don't worry, we've helped guys off trains all the time. The railroad's not going to press charges," but they did.
The railroad did?
Because the railroad actually pressed charges because we're trespassing. They probably could have gotten us with a bunch of other
So they do it
crimes or whatever
because
we were doing. Yeah, the before the cops even got there, the conductor was like, "You boys just can't ride on top. You can't ride on top." And but yeah, then the police got there and they took us to a holding cell in Kimball, Nebraska, which is like, I think only by car, only an hour or so from Cheyenne, Wyoming. And that's where they told us that they actually were pressing charges, and they took our fingerprints and put us in orange jumpsuits. This is a really tiny town, you know?
Yeah.
And they don't even have a proper jail or prison. They just have like a 4-room holding cell. The keys were like this big, like cartoon.
Oh, like the old school keys, yeah.
Skeleton keys.
It was a joke, and everybody there was really friendly, and they were like, "You are the nicest boys we've ever had come in here." and it's like 3 meals a day. We were there for 2.5 days waiting for our little impromptu court date. So they got us a lawyer, and the lawyer argued for us, saying that, you know, we told him how stupid we felt. Anyway, it gave us our sentence as time served, which was like 2 days in jail in Kimball, Nebraska. And we were able to somehow find out the Greyhound bus schedule to get back, but we misinterpreted it, and we actually talked them into illegally releasing us 2 hours early on St. Patrick's Day so that we could go to the Greyhound station. But we were wrong. The Greyhound bus did not leave at that time. It left like the next morning.
Yeah.
Still got you out 2 hours early.
Yeah, we got out 2 hours early. That's how like not by the book this place was.
Yeah.
You know, a lot more weird stuff happened in jail. I'm just gonna gloss over it. And then we walked
Part
down
three.
the hill. Part 3.
Part 3. So last time you told us about some weird shit in jail.
No, it's not fascinating. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
It's just really sad. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know if maybe anybody from your listeners have been to jail or even been in a holding cell, but it's a lot of adults screaming and crying and having the worst days of their life and acting out. You know, it's just insane. The police are the worst. They hate being there.
Yeah.
They're the ones in jail, you know. And they're also awful, awful assholes for the most part. We had some nice people too, but just awful, worst people in the world were the cops in there.
Yeah, I've heard jail cops can be pretty hard ass.
They're so sad.
Yeah.
They're so sad. I don't know. It's really like hell.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah,
but yeah, then we went down the
I'd
street.
imagine.
It's really bad. And we went down the street, and some guy drove past us and hollered something at us, and we couldn't hear him. And then he drove past us again, and just like they were just driving past us and spitting on us. This is the kind of little Nebraska town we were at.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then we finally got to this bar, and like I say, it was on St. Patrick's Day, and we ordered a whole bunch of green beers, and we actually sang karaoke and had a terrific night. Passed out, got up in the morning, and got on a bus home on a Greyhound bus. I wasn't even hitchhiking at that time yet. I rode trains before even hitchhiking. And then when I got home, my friend Barnaby told me that before I got out of jail, every woman in Fort Collins had heard I had been to jail, and it was like a huge plus for my social life, evidently. So
Okay,
it's
so
kind of-
that you said you had to go to jail multiple times. Though were majority of them from hopping trains.
yeah, yep, and like I got caught by conductors and engineers across like tons and tons of different places, and 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100, they knew I wasn't gonna. The only thing they really don't want you to do is like throw a brake lever or do something really really dangerous. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
because a lot of
imagine.
times we were riding in the secondary engine. So the conductor and the engineer ride in the first unit. They call them units. And they don't enter the other units except for every 15 hours. They have to walk in there, read some dials, and sign a clipboard. And our policy was just to get out and hide in the bushes because we could see them coming.
Yeah.
And if we were in a unit, which is our favorite place to ride, we'd be in the one that's on the back of the train if it had one. And there was a few times we rode in the ones that were like right next to the engineer and conductor. But yeah, most of the time they catch you and they're like, they either let you go on to the next town or they make you get off, but they're probably not going to call the police, and you don't wind up in jail most of the time.
Yeah.
You know?
It seems like more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, it's like paperwork, and they probably don't want to report that anyway.
Yeah.
One time I was on a train north. I rode a train north out of Seattle along the Puget Sound, and then like 3 hours north of there, the train pulled over, and some guy came back. Must have been the conductor, and he found us, and he was like, "Do you boys know this is a Boeing train? This is a train that had weird shaped cars, and I guess it was airplane parts."
Oh.
And he was like, "You have to get off right now."
Yeah.
And
Like a security
Yeah.
and
risk.
I'm in trouble if anybody sees me telling you this. And yeah, we like had to walk for a really long time from there, because the middle of nowhere is the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the time it was fine. They could tell that we weren't dangerous, we weren't addicts, we weren't disrespectful. We were,
Yeah, you're
I
there for the
always
adventure,
every
not
time
really
I
to
ever
cause
traveled, I
trouble.
wore a collar. Yeah, I always wore a collar and a smile. It was like my whole thing.
So
know,
you
so
so you
people could
guys
tell.
hopped trains for a while. It sounds like.
Yep.
For a little while. Okay, so when we're doing these train rides, you're talking about just grabbing these train rides from like you were talking about from like mid Colorado and then just riding them until you felt like hopping off and then just work your way back home.
We always had a plan, except for that first one. It was always hitchhiking home.
Okay.
Which you ride a train for 14 hours and then like you get off and hitchhike and you're home in like 3 hours. It was
Yeah.
pretty much how it worked.
Okay.
Trains
So-
are so slow.
Is that how the hitchhiking started? Was from getting home
Yeah.
from train trips?
Yep.
Okay.
And then it just became obvious that was way more my thing because it was so social.
Yeah.
It was like awkwardly, forcefully social, and that
actually,
became
that
my addiction.
That's a good point that you mentioned there to bring up that you were talking about how it's awkward. Because when we first talked to you about this, you had mentioned that if it wasn't for the time you spent hitchhiking and I think you said waiting tables, I believe you said you kind of credited both of those experiences in your life to you being more sociable. You said you were kind of like a little more shy and timid before that.
Yeah, waiting tables made me social enough to hitchhike, and hitchhiking made me like feel like I could talk to anybody.
Okay.
Because you had to. Most of the time people that give you a ride are the nicest and most generous 10%. But if you hitchhike a whole bunch of days in a row, you get some really bizarre people at least once a day.
Right,
And you
sure.
have to be able. have to talk to these guys.
Now,
And I was at a stage
what's
in my life
your-
where I was kind of
Go ahead.
I was at a stage in my life where I was kind of making all these randos my therapist. I was like, sometimes, 3 months away from home and alone for a long time,
Yeah.
and just really opening up. Like, I've had thousands and thousands of rides, and I always thought I would remember every single one of them, but there's a billion I've forgotten. And the ones that I remember, the picture that I have of myself is like a weird kid that got in their car and just really opened up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like how.
Well, yeah, it sounds like that's kind
bizarre.
of what you did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you remember the first time you went out hitchhiking by yourself without riding a train first and hitchhiking your way back when you were just like solely like, I don't even want to do the train part anymore. I just want to hitchhike. Do you remember what your first
Yep.
experience was like? Like just going out and
Yeah.
hitchhiking?
All of my rough traveling in the beginning was with someone.
Okay.
But then it started to really become my identity, and then I would do these trips alone. And in the beginning, that was like surprisingly scary for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going to bed alone in a weird spot outdoors, where you don't know. You start to daydream about dogs and wildlife and randos and
Everything.
Also,
All of that.
real quick for reference, about like what year was this that all this was starting? That you were starting the train hopping and the hitchhiking and all that.
It started in 2006.
Okay.
And lasted I think I said before 10 years, but that's a little deceiving. I was not on the road for 10 years straight. I was not
No,
one of those
it
guys.
sounded more like you were just doing.
I dreamed about going there.
traveling within that
I
time.
did long trips,
Yeah.
but I was never a homeless guy, because I always had a family. I always had a home, that I always had a place I could always go to my parents' house
Yeah.
and eat rich food.
Yeah.
My parents aren't rich, but compared to everyone I was around, like, I was never down and out. I was penniless for months on end, but I was never down and out, because having my family means I have support available to me.
Sure.
And that's just so different. That's night and day. Like, the people that I traveled with, or the people that I hung out with at that time, were in a different story, and they would be super offended if I ever called myself homeless.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't get that from your stories originally. When you said
Yeah.
you traveled for 10 years, to me it sounded like you weren't out traveling for 10 years. It sounded more like you were taking trips within that 10 years. Like,
It was my focus. It was my focus for 10 years, probably.
I see. Okay.
Or maybe like 9 years or something. Yeah. I tried really hard to get as much of it as I could, as often as I could.
Now, what would you like when how do you approach even asking somebody when you're hitchhiking? How what was your strategy here for, like, I can't
Show a
imagine you
little
just walk
skin?
up and ask for a ride, right? Like, did you have like a certain way you would open up to try to, like, that worked for you?
Well, I was literally hitchhiking. So I would try to dress nice, and I'd have my bag looking as small as possible, but it was always the biggest bag of anyone I knew. I had the hugest bag. Like, all of my friends were like, "That's twice my bag." I had like books. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the bottom of my bag was packed with books. It was so dumb. And weird
Whatever you
stuff.
need
I
for the
always
road,
had a
man.
ukulele. Yeah. But you don't need much. All you need is enough to stay safe. But I had way more than that. So I tried to make my bag look really small. Like I said before, I always wore a collar, even if it wasn't clean. And I'd stand on the side of the road. I'd stand on the on-ramp, or if the on-ramp was really dead, I'd stand right on the interstate. And I tried to avoid interstates. I'd be on highways or whatever, but interstates were the fastest way to move. And yeah, just stand on the on-ramp and literally stick your thumb out. And then once they drive past you, you also have to pardon them. Give them a pardon, because they always look back in their rearview mirror, because they're so curious about you.
I
And then you
see,
give
yeah.
them, forgiveness. And they
Forgive
drive
you for
away
not picking me
forever.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was it. There was only a couple times where I was like actually talking to people, like at a gas station or something. Almost every time I was just literally standing with my thumb out.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. So I know you said just a second ago you were never really homeless, but you had mentioned that there was I believe you said it was a summer where you had traveled something like 10,000 miles and spent almost
Yes.
every night outdoors.
Yeah, that's true.
Was that just a
That's one of my best.
camping experience? Like you were just camping as you traveled, or was that same thing, coming home, going again, kind of thing? That summer.
I mean, I think I was out for a whole summer once,
Okay.
and I maybe a couple of summers, but there was one that was a ton of movement.
Yeah.
Often I would get jobs and like stay somewhere or like meet the right person and get a weird gig that was worth sticking around for, or make a really cool friend or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that summer I went. I was trying to, you actually mentioned that you were going to drill me about some of the traveling days. So I remembered that today, and I was trying to think of what summer that was. What was the one that I actually tracked my miles and then bragged the moment I hit 10,000? And I could look at my journals actually and probably figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I went all over the place. I went all the way to the East Coast. I went all the way to the West Coast, and then I went up and down the West Coast, and then I would go back. One of the loops I would do pretty often is go from Colorado to Minneapolis to Chicago, and then at one point way beyond Chicago, and then all the way back to Colorado. But the road that I did the most times was just Colorado to California, and then up and down the California coast,
Okay.
and then back to Colorado.
Yeah, you had mentioned you spent a lot of time on the West Coast. I'm surprised to hear that you
Yeah.
came to the East Coast. I don't know why you would.
Yeah.
It's hard to hitchhike over there, I'll tell you
I
that.
know,
It's
yeah.
really slow.
Yeah,
There's a
but-
lot of cars, but they don't pick you up, and
No.
it's
Yeah, I
really
think-
easy to find yourself.
That's why the hitchhiking concept seems so like why we're so fascinated, because it's just not
Yeah.
something that you really
It's not something that happens around here often.
not something that really happens, or people don't really hitchhike for fun. You see somebody hitchhiking, you're like, oh, they look like they're on fentanyl.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah.
It does suck in the East. The one place I had a great time in the East was upstate New York. I got to travel all over up there,
Yeah.
and I snuck into a music festival in the Catskills. It might have been called Catskills, the music festival. I can't remember. It was near Woodstock, New York,
Okay.
and I remember hearing about that was one of the things that inspired me. But that was really fun. Upstate New York, you can hitchhike, but a lot of the East Coast is just connected cities.
Yeah.
There's not like
Yeah.
planes.
Yeah.
There's
There's
no
not
planes.
there's not
It's like
big
Europe or
stretches
something.
of space between cities.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Um,
packed.
Now, you had mentioned just a moment ago of you said you could probably check your journal and find out, and that kind of that skips me ahead a little bit in my questioning, but is a good segue for the next question that I had, which was stories from the road, the podcast that you had wanted
Yeah.
to do, or the videos you wanted to do. For anyone interested, there is one episode that is unlisted that I happen to have the link to, and I left it in the
It's
description.
really embarrassing. It's really
listen,
embarrassing.
Listen,
It was made by a different guy.
I'm going to mute you in a second.
know.
I listened to it earlier today, and the first thing I thought of when I was writing notes down for this tonight is I was like, I need to know when I'm going to be able to hear a second episode, because I've told you before, the first episode with Cajun, that's such a good concept for something to listen to. And the fact that
Yeah, man.
that we're possibly never going to see another one is so upsetting
Yeah.
to me. So
Yeah.
I meant to ask you though, when I was listening to it, is you had mentioned that there was a released first episode and an unreleased second episode. Is it
I
actually
can't believe
edited?
you know all this.
I paid attention the first time, dude. I told you, you are fascinating.
Yeah.
So I want to know.
It started to get editing. It started to get edited. I'll give you the highlights of it.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I recently found a stack of SD cards that are all unlistened to recordings that for future episodes of that podcast. or
All from the road?
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
and I'm
come
talking about
on.
like Like 100 hours of the dumbest conversation with a couple gems in the middle.
I think you
You know
underestimate
what I
how
mean?
many people would be fascinated.
Yeah, I think since you did it for so long, you are not nearly as impressed with it as others would be. To me, that shit was
Um,
fascinating.
Yeah.
here's episode 2. I'll just tell you the story of episode 2.
I'd love to hear it.
I hitchhiked from Colorado to Minneapolis, and then from Minneapolis, this is by myself. From Minneapolis, I decided to, instead of going my usual east to Chicago and maybe to Illinois or to Indiana, which I used to go all the way to Indiana, I decided to go all the way west across Interstate 90 to the west coast from Minnesota.
Okay.
Even though Minnesota is a considerable distance east, it's mostly north of Colorado, but it's east. I decided to just change my direction and go all the way to the west coast because in Washington State there was a rainbow gathering. Do you know what the rainbow family is?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay, it's this gigantic group. It still happens every year. Look up Rainbow Gathering. It's 10,000 people that hitchhike to a certain spot. And it's always a highly illegal camping city like Mecca
Yeah.
that people hitchhike to. And I've been to a few of them and I decided to go again. It's like a really incredible experience. So I used to compare it to Burning Man, but the difference is Burning Man is full of rich people and Rainbow is extremely poor people who are really, really loving hippies. It's hardcore hippies, and it was kind of started by the Grateful Dead. And there's a whole bunch of origin stories about Rainbow Family. And I am not a member of the Rainbow Family, but I was kind of in disguise over there a couple times or something.
Okay.
I had a terrific time. I got the full experience, so I decided to go over there, and I convinced one of my buddies from California to hitchhike up to Washington for the first time alone to meet up with me at the Rainbow Gathering, and we miraculously met there and had an incredible couple of weeks in that tent city, the most incredible tent city. Rainbow Gathering is the kind of place where there's all these kitchens, you know, so if you get hungry, but there's tons of kitchens that are like something like just like these dirty, nasty places where you can get meals of
Yeah.
food cooked in like makeshift commercial kitchens in the woods, made out of wood and clay, and like they make all kinds of weird stuff out there, and they
Yeah.
serve tons of people, and everybody lines up. And every time there's a rainbow gathering, there's like maybe 20 or 30 kitchens that pop up
That's wild.
somehow, and tons of food is provided.
That's crazy. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither have I. I'm definitely gonna be
You
looking
should
it up though.
Watch some YouTube. Watch some YouTube on the Rainbow Gathering and the Rainbow Family. You're probably going to see a lot of scary stuff, but I didn't come across very much scary stuff. I'll go on a quick side tangent. Once I was at a Rainbow Gathering, and I walked past this guy who was talking to a child on a log in the woods, and he said to me, "Did you lose your child?" And I just thought that is the dumbest question in the world. Like, immediately I did not lose my child.
Yeah.
And that child next to you is not my lost child.
Yeah.
But he had no idea how to start a conversation and ask me for help. He had no idea how to ask me for help. And I took this kid and ended up finding his parents and got him. He was one of 3 siblings that were running around. And they were running a kitchen, actually. They were one of the people running a kitchen. And later on, I ate at that kitchen, and I saw that same kid walk over to a fire. So imagine all these hippies in a line to get their little free plate of food. You can't show up at Rainbow Gathering without a plate and a cup,
Yeah.
okay? And maybe you want some forks or whatever. So you have your plate and your cup, and they're nasty after the first day.
Oh,
It's
man.
not like you're washing it.
Yeah.
And so all these hippies are in line, and I see the same boy that I helped reunite with his parents. His parents are nowhere to be seen. And he walked up to the fire, he's like maybe 5 years old, grabbed a log out of the fire that was burning, and started waving it and laughing because the people in the line were diving out of the way.
Well, Jesus.
You know,
Jesus Christ.
it was just crazy. and I grabbed the log and stopped him again. Probably saved him twice.
She's out there getting that early dad
Anyway.
practice.
Oh man.
On my way to Rainbow Gathering, I was talking about episode 2. On my
Yes.
way to Rainbow Gathering, I got a really long ride by this guy who was on acid. And
Nice.
Naturally.
I drove his car most of the time because I noticed after like 24 hours, he wasn't sleeping at all. He had already picked up another hitchhiker, a girl named Erin. She just told me her name was Bird. Because the rainbow people have their own names.
Yeah.
Oh, she was heading to the same thing?
Yep. And so was the driver of this van.
Oh shit.
And he was just on acid all the time. He had just gotten out of jail.
Jesus.
And he was one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And as soon as I met him and started listening to him, I was like, "Oh man, he's the new Cajun. He's the
He's
the
episode
star of
2.
this show."
Yeah.
He was like, but he wasn't. He would have just been an intro or something because he was like, "I come from Canada, and did you know in far north Canada, there's a community of people that live among the bears." He said they live with the bears and they cooperate with the bears, but they don't own the bears. The bears own them, and they are slaves to the bears. And they're called the bear riders because they ride the bears, but it's really the bears that are in charge of this whole society. And he was like strangely improvising this falsity, this
Yeah.
like weird daydream he had while he was on acid, telling me about these facts about northern Canada.
But I mean, can anybody prove him wrong?
E-Doc.
I can't prove him wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, that guy, he was my ride for a couple of days, and he never slept. And at one point, I demanded that he sleep, because I was like, eventually you have to crash. You can't just drive forever. You can't just keep driving forever.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I told him I was going to get out if he didn't pull over and sleep, and he did. He like got a campsite and tried to sleep, and I don't know if he did or didn't, but he tried for a while. As soon as we got to the camp, me and Bird just completely ditched him, and never saw him again.
Yeah.
So we had these incredible adventures, and while I was at, I tend to ramble a lot, so
We lost
you
your
can stop
camera,
me at any
Jeff.
time because I'm not going to go on too many side
I'm
tangents.
gonna
but
stop you
while I
here.
was
I'm
there-
gonna stop you here. We lost your camera.
Wait, what?
We lost your camera.
Did I lose your audio, or are you
Hello? Uh-oh.
say
Hello?
something? Did I lose you?
Hello. We're here. Hello. We lost you.
Uh-oh.
I have no audio.
We can't
Right.
see you.
Got no
Oh.
snare. Got no snare in his headphones. Oh,
He's
there
back.
he
All
is.
right, there
Testing?
he is. Yes. You're good.
Yes.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Testing.
Hello.
Can you
Yes?
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna just I'm guessing it's my output channel.
Okay.
How about now?
Discord.
We
Hello?
hear you.
Gotcha.
Hello. Okay.
Yep.
I
Discord.
have no idea why that happened.
No clue.
Just Discord
Didn't
things.
click anything,
Yep.
everybody.
Anyways, you were saying you and
Uh,
Bird ditch Acid Man.
Yes.
His name was like something about a trunk, like big trunk, like the trunk of a tree or
Okay.
something. Anyway, then while I was at that Rainbow Gathering, I ran into this kid who had given me a ride hitchhiking in Minneapolis like the year before. And he had, because of me, run away.
Holy shit.
He like picked me up hitchhiking, and then he was telling me when the first time he picked me up hitchhiking, he had a dog. His dog had awful separation anxiety from him, and his parents were like abusive, and he ran away. And I ran into
Damn.
him in Washington State in the woods at this Rainbow Gathering. He started following me around, and he was unhinged. This guy walked past me. Oh no, we're walking on one of the main trails in the city in the Rainbow Gathering, and this guy's like, acid drops, acid drops, acid drops. And just like as you're walking down the trail, you can just open your mouth or whatever. And I was like, no.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
And I just kept walking. But Joe, this kid that I had inspired to hitchhike from Minneapolis that I ran into, was like, what? Yes. And just like took acid. And then he was like, what was that? And I was like, that was acid. You know?
Enjoy that.
I'm sorry, that was a little side tangent. He kept saying over and over, Like, I mean, this is great, all these naked people. I'm just tired of seeing all these naked guys everywhere, is what he
Yeah,
kept saying. He was
you'll get that
complaining
with them
about the
big
naked
jobs.
men. I know, yeah.
I feel like we could do
Anyway,
a whole episode just on you remembering random people you this ring.
let me finish episode 2 really quick
Okay.
because
Oh
I
yes,
went
yes,
down
yes,
south.
yes.
I left the Rainbow Gathering with Tyler. We hitchhiked our way down the coast, and on the west coast, leaving Washington Wilderness is like extremely gloomy and rainy. It just rains all the time, I guess. And
Yeah.
we made it all the way down to Ukiah, California, where we stopped by his parents' house, my buddy Tyler. He's still one of my best friends. And when we left there, we were on our way back to Colorado. So we were going to take a side street down to Interstate 80 and then take 80 all the way to Colorado, which we did. But first, right before we got to Ukiah, we ran into these two homeless guys and we camped with them. And I don't remember their names. One of them was named Jack. And while we were hanging out with, this is a different Jack, obviously. While we were hanging out with Jack and, Sully and Jack.
Jack and
So
Sully.
Sully and Jack were best friends.
Sound like a detective duo.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And several times while I was hanging out with Sully and Jack, 3 different times on the audio recording, he referenced his own death. He mentioned his own death. He was like, Sully, you're gonna get, even if you end up getting the RV of your dreams, and I die, you just put my casket on top of that RV,
What the
and
fuck?
I'm gonna be like riding with you forever, Sully. We're best friends. And then they were also hardcore alcoholics, and I remember when I listened to the audio, he mentioned his own death 3 times. Then and I was like, Tyler, I love this guy Sully because he was hilarious.
Yeah.
He was so funny. I was laughing nonstop, and I was like, I just want to be around this guy Sully. I just want to camp with him. We're gonna stay a couple days, and Tyler was like, no, I'm just too close to home. It feels weird to stop when I just am this close to my home. Like I'm an hour from home. We have to go down the road.
Yeah.
So we did. But we did that after we went to his house. We stayed there a few days or whatever. Maybe it was a week. And then we started working our way east back towards Colorado. And we ran into Sully again under a bridge in some small town still in California.
Yeah.
And Jack was not there because Jack had passed away.
What?
Holy
Jack
shit.
had died
What?
of
How did he-
alcohol poisoning or something. He just woke up dead.
Bro, this would have been an
According to
incredible
Sully.
episode too.
I know, because my mind was blown. And we did camp with Sully. I bought Sully pizza and beer, and we parked under a bridge. There's a picture of me and Tyler and Sully under a bridge. It was like during this weird phenomenon where there was tiny frogs everywhere. Like you couldn't step without stepping on frogs, and they were all over your gear and your body
That's so
everywhere, just under this bridge. Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
And Jack had passed away during the time we were staying in Ukiah, which, like I said, was maybe a number of days or a week or something.
Damn.
And I was just so saddened by that. And Sully had moved on. Sully was
It's because Jack was
his
always
old-
talking about it. He was ready
don't
for
know.
it, bro. He just never shut up about
Yeah,
dying.
maybe he had like pre-mourned it
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
About
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
time.
Sully was like, fine,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
I cried for you years ago, asshole.
yeah.
So,
But yeah,
so you get
that
to
just blew my
you
mind.
get to camp with Sully for a few days then?
Just one night, just
one
one night, and I was, able to buy beer, and there was a few times on the road where I feel really bad about, buying beer for people I shouldn't buy beer for, like
Eh.
people that have a problem with alcohol. Honestly, it's their choice, and I'm not trying to make it seem like that, but there's a couple times that someone brought up to me, and I was like, "Oh, you're right. That was a bad move," and I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, they would
Just in
have.
case George is
They're gonna
future
find a
George
way to
is
get
gonna
it.
watch this.
Yeah, you're
Future
right.
George is
You're
gonna
right.
watch this.
Yeah, you're right.
George, don't just. But yeah, I bought a 12-pack of beer and a couple pizzas from a local restaurant, and we sat under the bridge all night, and we played like a card game, and then passed out, and Yeah, the next day, me and Tyler left. We went all the way to Colorado. We got a ride with this guy who, in the winter, was a helicopter pilot, and in the summer was a fiber optic. What do you call it? The guy that digs the trenches and lays fiber optic across
Like
the United States.
telecommunications type.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
an installer. He was like a
Yeah.
low level laborer that dug the trenches, and he was like, and there's a couple places in this country you could just snip a wire and the whole country would shut down. You know?
But then he's a helicopter pilot randomly as well.
Yeah, and he drove a rare semi called the overcab. You know what that is? It's like, have you seen a semi that is completely flat in the front?
Yeah, where the cab sits over the motor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he showed us. He like pulled up to when we were stopped for whatever reason at some place. He pulled up to another car, and I was like, "Oh!" Because it was like
Oh, yeah.
really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he picked us up, he was like, "I saw you boys at the last truck stop. How'd you get here? How'd you get here before I?" He drove. He had stopped at a truck stop, and while he was stopped there, we had gotten there, and he had seen us before, but he drove past us. So the second time he drove past us, he picked us up, and he gave us a ride all the way from a place in Utah called Tueli, which is just east of Salt Lake City, next to the Salt Flats.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
gave us a
nice.
ride from there all the way to downtown Fort Collins, my hometown, which isn't even on Interstate 80. Got off of his, drove his truck off of his path and dropped us off in my hometown.
Oh, hell
That's
yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
That would have been episode 2.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Is
And
there,
you still
is there
have all
ever
of
a
that.
chance? Is there ever, maybe when you get older and life slows down for you, where you would go back and dig through them?
How long do SD cards last?
Forever.
If they last forever, there's a chance.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, unless you're like storing them in water, it should be
I
fine.
kind of feel like we just might have had episode 2. That might have been it.
No,
yeah, the
you
voices
gotta-
are
the
so.
way that you narrated it was good, and I know
Yeah.
I know you're cringing because it's your own voice. Because I do the same thing, but that's natural. I'm trying to tell you just from a listening standpoint. I know you don't want to hear it, but it is. It's a good listen, and you're a good narrator. And it sounds like you
Thanks,
you
man.
wrote out a script for the episode. Like you kind of made the story
I
concise.
listened to the audio enough to understand what the story was. Like, even while I was living it, I was like, "Oh my god, the Bear Riders are gonna be in it," and oh my god, Jack, didn't he talk about his death? And then I went back and listened to the audio. He had referenced his death 3 different times, just like
That's
in
so
a
crazy,
joke,
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then died.
Yeah.
And the whole time, it made me so sad.
I feel
and
like
I'd only
the-
hung out with him one night, but
We
Scully,
need episode
Sully,
2.
yeah,
it'd
we
be
really
need
do.
it.
great.
We really need
Yes.
episode 2.
Well, I'm not trying to. Me and Nightwing just got done wandering around Loveland for 3 days straight, asking bars if we can fly there, and it really made me flash back to traveling, because it felt like the whoop was like my golden ticket that forced me to try, because Peter was encouraging me, and I was like, we are going to fly here. We went into this movie theater lobby, and I was like, we're going to figure it out. I went up and schmoozed the hell out of the general manager
Yeah.
and got him to say yes.
What?
And none of the employees could believe it. I went back to the bar at the movie theater. I was like, man, your boss is so cool. He's letting us fly here. And she was like, that's hilarious. He is not cool, And I was like, I'm gonna tell him you said that. And she was like, that's fine. I say it all the time. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
He was like, his name is Ryan at the Metrolux. He was really cool to me.
Well, that's nice of him.
But yeah, so I was like, it's actually got me a little bit fired up, because I had so much fun. We made great friends in 3 days flying Tinywhoops in my hometown. Like the last day, we flew that theater, and then I went into an axe throwing bar, and I met this professional axe thrower, top 100 in the world, and then
Damn.
he also mentioned top 10, but I think he was really more like top 100. I got him to let us throw axes for free, to rip the entire axe throwing bar, and then I got him to. I was like, "You want to try to axe me out of the air? Just axe my whoop." And he was like, "I could get you no problem." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do an interview with my selfie camera." I was like, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jesse. This will come out later, I think.
Nice.
I was like, I'm Jesse Perkins right here at Axe to Grind Axe Bar in Loveland, Colorado, and this guy. And he introduced himself slightly awkwardly with his first and last name. I was like, he says he's top 100 in the world, and I think he's gonna try to hit my whoop out of the air. And he was like nervous at that point because he wasn't expecting me to just flash a blog camera. We didn't walk in like vloggers.
Yeah.
We walked in like a couple of friends flying toys.
Yeah. Just fucking around.
And he was like, I've never really done this before, but I'm thinking like 95% chance I'm gonna hit it. I'm gonna hit it 95% of the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, he threw 4 axes at my Tinywhoop. You guys, I want you both to guess how many times he hit me.
All 4 times.
Well, where were you? Were you flying in a?
Well, he's not throwing it out
in
in
front of the
bar.
target.
Yeah.
I'm saying, were you staying like just right, like were you staying generally
Rolling through a
right
crowd
around
of
the
people.
target?
Yeah, I'm like in the area where you're allowed to throw axes.
Okay.
He has to aim to hit me. He has to aim. I'm not holding still.
I'm gonna guess 1 out of 4.
What was your guess, Heads?
I said 4 out of 4. I'm going high.
He hit me all 4 times.
No shit.
Fucking
3 times.
I had faith in my boy.
He
Top
hit
100,
me, and
baby.
I was far enough. The first 3 times I was far enough away from the wall that the blade skinned me out of the way, and I kept flying. I didn't even get destroyed. But then, the last time I was pinned against the wall. I'm going to show you guys a picture right now because this just happened.
Oh, that's dope.
I got my whoop pinned against the target. Here it is. Can you see it? There it is. There's my whoop. You can see the
That's
lights
sick.
are still on.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's even close to the bullseye. And Peter was filming the whole thing too. He didn't even get to fly in there, but we both
That's
got
so
to throw
funny.
axes. So anyway,
That's
I came
sick.
out of that experience and I was like having all these flashbacks to hitchhiking, and I was like, I want to make this kind of content. So I just bought the new 360 camera and got one of these now.
Hey.
And I'm gonna
nice.
try to make a little bit of walking around with the Tinywhoop content.
Oh, please do.
So that could be your episode 2 as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because we made some awesome friends. We met, like, I now know the managers of 4 other bars in this town who I really loved talking to them.
Yeah.
And every time we'd go bar to bar, we'd shut the cameras off, and then all the best stuff would happen. You
Of
know what I mean?
course.
All the
Course.
best
Yeah.
conversation and everything.
Yeah, that's how it
So
always
that's why I got my new 360 camera. This is the new X4, Insta360 1X4.
Ooh.
And I'm going to set this baby down. It looks like it's off. It's always recording all directions with great audio.
There you go.
So that's how I'm going to try to
That's a
you
good
know,
idea. Yeah,
that's
never
what I'm going
miss
to
a
try
shot.
to do.
So you're basically the government.
I'm actually
always
starting that whole
watching.
party tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning is the Tour de Fat, which is a costume bike parade that I'm going to fly for the 4th year.
Oh, awesome.
Oh,
Where does
that's
that
cool.
Where does
It's
that roll
like-
through? Loveland?
Fort Collins.
Oh, okay. So
I have a video on the Tinywhoop channel. If anybody's curious about what it looks like, I have a video on the Tinywhoop channel called "The Running of the Bikes."
okay.
Because I'm like doing all kinds of the most daring flying I can find. In this sea of costumed people riding bikes, which was super, super fun. I've never gone there without losing 1 or 2 Tinywhoops. And this is my 4th year. In the last 2 years, I had a HD0 recording malfunction.
Oh,
Did you know-
Oh, no.
dude?
Did you know that if
The worst.
HD0, if in your goggles you see REC in red and it's blinking,
Yes.
that does not mean you're recording. That means you're not recording. If it's blinking REC in the upper right, I'm not joking. It sounds like it seems like the most epic prank in FPV. But if it's not solid, if it's blinking,
Yeah.
you know, like how every camera looks when it's recording.
Usually,
If it looks
yeah,
like
usually
that,
blinks.
it's not recording.
Well, that's good to know.
Just killed me. So I'm like, oh my god, I sacrificed all these HD whoops getting smashed by cars.
Oh
Oh,
man.
Or not cars, but bikes. Bikes,
Yeah.
you know, bikes running over it. Like I'm crashing. I'm trying to turtle. You see tires go by like right here.
Oh.
Like, oh, that was a close one. And then it just goes black.
oh no. Well,
So sad.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
So that's tomorrow morning. And that's going to be the first, use of that 360 camera, and we'll just see how it goes. I'm mostly saying all this because now I have to put out content about it.
Yes.
I have to perform, make it all happen, and
Well, listen,
that's what I
before we
really
get
wanna
too
do.
far off of your
Yeah,
traveling,
sorry. Okay, sorry.
I wanted to. I was listening to the Cajun episode again, the first episode earlier, and it got me thinking: was that your first trip hitchhiking?
No, I was like year 4 or 5 or something.
Okay,
Oh,
so
so you had-
you had already been solo for a while.
A ton. Yep.
Okay, and you just randomly just decided like I should be documenting this.
Yeah, because because you just meet the most incredible people, and I think partly because I was going through this phase of my life where I was opening up, like I said,
Yeah.
they would really open up to me sometimes. Sometimes it was weird, sometimes it was like the end of the conversation, but sometimes it was the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'd hear the most incredible stories, like some guy that was a meth in northern Michigan. I got a ride by this guy who was a meth addict for years and years and got out of it and then made a family. He lost his first career and family due to meth,
Yeah.
got out of meth, which is just a story you never hear,
Yeah.
set it down, got away from it miraculously, and had a whole new life after that. I was so inspired by that guy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And even in the Cajun episode, there's a guy that was a heroin addict. I didn't even focused on him, but he did heroin for like a ton of years.
yeah, you said he
and
found
survived
his
it.
way to stumble into a or a sentence with a cough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He would scream. He did that over and over.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That's
Like,
how he
I
interrupts
was
people.
addicted to that stuff for years, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, not funny, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Well, then
I was just kind of curious because the Cajun episode being the first episode, was that the first time you had recorded? Were you doing these chronologically? The episodes were you gonna release them chronologically?
Yep, that was so. I made this thing on my backpack that my backpack was covered in railroad patches, but there was one patch that was actually a false patch. That was right underneath it was a microphone. And in the Cajun episode, there's like a part of it where I did an official interview with him, and
Yeah.
in that moment, we're sitting in the dark on the side of the road, about to sleep, and I just set the recording device down right in front of him, and he tried to tell a story,
Yeah.
which was really hard for him to do. But the rest of it was no permission recording,
Yeah.
top
Wow.
secret spy recording, and it felt harmless to me. It's like probably slightly disrespectful.
That's incredible stories.
I don't want to be recorded without knowing about it, to be honest. But yeah, it felt so special, and I felt like I had experienced so many special moments, and it felt like really good stuff to share.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I went out with my little H4 recording device sewn into my. It had a zipper on the inside. If you go way back in the pocket, there was a zipper where you could take this thing out. So I would just turn it on and run it all day. All day.
So that's what you're
record
saying.
it.
You got like hundreds of hours worth of shit to listen through.
Yeah.
Do you
Sucks.
have photos of you with some of these people?
Not Cajun. I can still picture him clear as day, but I don't have any pictures with Cajun. There's a lot of pictures from my hitchhiking days. I think there's even some on my Facebook. If you go all the way back, you can see me on trains and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
But there was one trip I did across Interstate 90 where every time I was hitchhiking out, but I would go set up my camera over there and then set a timer and then run over and pretend like a candid hitchhiking picture or whatever. I did a little bit of that.
Pre-influencer days.
Well, I mean, you were talking
Yeah.
earlier about wanting to keep things for George to watch later. If you want to talk about stories that he'd want to hear later, I'd say it's those for sure. We want to hear those now. So I'm sure
Even
when George gets older, he's
What
going
do
to
you
want
want
to
to hear
about
right now?
your stories from the road. I just mean to continue
you wanna
making
do
the
more
episodes.
I'll tell you what I'm not going to do is go. I mean, I don't feel like I'm done hitchhiking forever. I tried last year because I had to cross town and I was in this weird spot. I was like, hey, this is like a hitchhiker friendly spot. And I tried for a while and couldn't get a ride.
Really? Yeah, I guess times have changed. quite a
was
bit.
between our 2 episodes. So I tried hitchhiking one time between the 2 In the Loop episodes. I could have, if I stayed longer, I definitely would have gotten a ride. But um, I'm not gonna go out and make more hitchhiker stories. I would
No, I
love
just
to
mean actually
make
going
friends.
through what you got
Yeah.
and organizing it and editing them down so that you can listen to them and get the story from it. I was just saying
Or
it's just a fun, most parents have stories they can share with their kids, but it's just their recollection of it. It's not often where you can say like, well, there's a whole
Yeah.
playlist of these
Yeah,
stories.
here's their
from-
voice.
right? Yeah, and your voice, from back then. Just being able to like actually hear you talking to these people would be kind of neat.
yeah, or
And I
even
am
like
ashamed.
live streams of you just listening through
Oh yeah, shit.
all the SD cards and interjecting
Giving
with
commentary
memories
on
from
it?
giving context
That'd be
to
the
it and
worst.
everything.
Like
it would be
one
a
of
lot.
the one,
It would be a lot.
it would be so embarrassing because like I was a much different younger person and living a really different kind of free life, and there was times where I would listen to the audio and be like, I am such an asshole. I am such an asshole. How could I have said that to that guy?
How so?
You know?
Just like being rude, or
No, I can't pick.
Uh,
I can't picture
yeah,
Jesse P
yeah,
ever being
yeah,
rude.
definitely,
being rude.
definitely. Being rude,
Yeah,
being disrespectful, um, being a kid,
yeah.
being a jackass.
What that happens.
So I would never listen to him live. I
Um,
might give like a heavily edited version in the future, like that's on the table maybe, but barely, because it's so much. I do wish like maybe like it would be so much fun to listen to the Bear Rider spiel because I know I have
Oh my
all
gosh.
that audio, like that. That'd be a fascinating. That was. I was in the car with that guy for like 36 hours or something.
Yeah.
jeez, yeah. I'm sure you got some gems
Oh, yeah.
in there.
I would love to hear the Bear Rider, Bear Rider
yeah.
myths.
So,
Just like picture some, yeah.
you had also mentioned in your traveling that you had kind of called a few places home. If I remember right, Minneapolis, Michigan, Tennessee, Colorado. Am I missing any where you kind of like hunkered down for a little bit?
Northern California,
California, okay.
Washington State, Chicago. I would always go through Chicago. I had several places to stay at Chicago. There was a website called couchsurfing.com.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's dead now. But you could like make friends sort of like hitchhiking couches.
Yeah.
And you make your little profile that tells your story and the mission that you're on, and then people are like, yes, you can come and surf my couch. I had this one place in Lincoln, Nebraska because that's right on my route. That's if I'm going anywhere east, I'm going through Lincoln, Nebraska, 5 hours from home. A 5 hours drive from right here. You could go through Lincoln and then Omaha. And in Lincoln, I had these really cool friends. And there was one time where I just texted them as I was approaching Lincoln, and they were like, yeah, Jesse, you know where the key is, and you know how to go downstairs, and you can stay in that same room. And
That's wild.
I arrived like when no one was home yet and went to sleep and woke up and left without ever seeing anyone there. You know what I mean?
That's
it was
crazy.
It was great.
Yeah,
just in and out, never even see those guys.
Yeah, it's like a little Airbnb.
Yeah, like a little private free hotel that was comfortable and just had some dogs or whatever.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a good deal. So, California, Chicago, Tennessee, Michigan,
Washington.
Minneapolis, all over the place. Sounds like.
Those are the big ones, though.
And when you would hunker down in these places, would you just rent a place or just crash with other people usually?
Crash with other people. One time, crash with other people.
So even
was
if you
always
were
crash
there
with
for
other
like an extended period of time, you would just kind of just shack up
I never
somewhere?
stayed at. I mean, the only place I ever stayed really long was in Northern California because I would just get jobs while I was hitchhiking in Northern California. You could probably imagine the kind of work I'd get over there.
Yeah.
And they always put me up. They always had a place for me to put my tent. And one time I was in Chicago for 10 days. It was during the Chicago Blues Festival. I got a job working for Advil, believe it or not.
Okay.
Advil had a presence at the Chicago Blues Festival.
That's so
and I got
random.
paid $17 an hour to
Damn.
give out free Advil in the crowd. So I'm like, all I was doing is walking around the Chicago Blues Festival and making friends, and they'd be like, "Here, have a beer," and I'd like slam a little beer over there or whatever. I was like, "Here's some Advil, guys. Like,
It's good for the
have a
hangover.
nice day."
Yeah.
They gave me like a giant bag of Advil. They even got me on the microphone in their tent, and I'm like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we were doing a bean toss or a beanbag toss, and you had to throw a beanbag through like a hole, like this picture of a woman like this, and there's like a hole next to her mouth, and it's like toothache." And there's a hole next to her back that's like back pain. And there was a hole next to her leg that's like joint pain. And if you threw like all the beanbags through all, and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, step right up. Advil is the every pain reliever.
Oh
You know?
no.
$17 an hour
Oh man.
for like a whole week. I
for
was
back
down.
in the 2000s, you said, in California.
It was huge. It was huge. I didn't know I was
Yeah.
gonna find that. That was a Craigslist job.
That's crazy. Oh, big pharma Jesse.
Mind-blowing. Yeah.
And then you also spent time. You said you spent like half a year or so out of the country in Europe.
Yep, I did.
Oh yeah, I forgot you had mentioned about. We haven't talked about that at all.
I did 6 months. I was not exactly penniless at that point. That was I hitchhiked before and after that.
Okay.
You know, but while I was there, I had enough money usually for buses and trains. I took the slow bus, and I lived for 2 months in Barcelona as a flyer boy for a bar where I made a shit ton of money talking people into drinking in bars,
Yeah.
which was like, here was my MO. I wake up in the afternoon. At that point, I got a flat. I got an apartment. I wake up in the afternoon and take the subway downtown Barcelona, sign in at my job. It's a place still exists called the Travel Bar, and get all my flyers, write my name on the back of like 2,000 flyers or something. You know what I mean? So that when they get turned in, I get credit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then drink 2 beers, and then go out to Las Ramblas, which is where all the tourists hang out, and just talk people in, like drag people to the bar.
That sounds like
Be like,
such
you're
a
not
good
gonna
job."
believe this deal.
Yeah.
You're not gonna believe this deal. You could get 2 beers for €6. You can't find that in this town. And I would just shove them in the door, give them coupons, and then go back out and wrangle some more like white
Oh
guys or
yeah,
something. you
makes
know?
God,
sense.
dude, that's
Well,
beautiful.
I remember you telling us last time when you were
That's so
when you
fun.
worked at the Milton Pot, you were good at selling wine to people. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
it seems like you got a history of pushing out.
So were you mainly just in Barcelona when you were there?
No, I did 2 months in Barcelona, and then I moved to Poland, where I was an au pair for a 10-month-old baby, and on a carrot juice farm. So
Wow.
this family had a farm that did,
So fucking random. I love it.
yeah. Well, this family, it was like a giant family on a really old farm in a small town called Magdalenka, which is near a bigger town called Bydgoszcz. And in Magdalenka, this is like the biggest farm, and they had carrots that were for carrot juice, and they had hogs. And they had a 10-month-old baby named Piotrush, who was my best friend. And I just was with him all day, every day for 2 months.
That's awesome.
And
So you did
it was
Barcelona
so much
2
fun.
months, Poland 2 months.
And then I went to Stirling, Scotland. I went to the UK. I took a bus from Poland to London, and it was like the slow bus. It was not like no other. I was the only non-Polish guy on the bus. Poland has a little bit less money than the UK, and there's tons of people that are like, I'm going to make some pounds. I'm not going to make some złotych, which is like worth very little compared to the pounds.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to find a way in London or in the UK to make some pounds. And I rode on the bus with all those guys for like 3 days to get to London. And then I went all the way north and ended up getting a job at a hostel in Stirling, Scotland called the Willie Wallace Hostel, because William Wallace from Braveheart, that's his hometown, is Stirling,
shit.
Scotland. And that was my first hostel job. That was like the start of a string of hostel jobs.
Okay.
And I had a blast.
So what
I
did
had
you
a
do?
blast.
What did you do at the hostels?
Front desk. I was just the front desk guy. Oh, later on, I was at the hostel in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There used to be a place there. It was a hostel called the Minneapolis International Hostel, and there I ended up being the manager for a short time, but for the most part was I never did housekeeping, I never did cleaning, but I did every other job at the hostel, and usually front desk stuff,
Okay.
which was really fun. When I was in Minneapolis, it was just um, Americans don't tend to stay in hostels even in America. So it was all these internationals that were coming to Minneapolis, and we would just party with all of these crazy, like Europeans and Asians, that were really, really fun.
Yeah. And they were just
Yeah,
travelers as well, just working their way through.
Yeah, they were my favorite people. They were so much fun. They were just on epic backpacking trips, the way some Americans do in Europe.
Yeah. So, what was when was Europe? Is this at the tail end of your hitchhiking time?
Actually, it was right after maybe a year of hitchhiking or something. It was
No
near the
shit.
beginning.
Okay, so this is early.
Yeah, and I did hitchhike twice while I was in Europe. One time from Barcelona to that little country between Spain and France in the Pyrenees Mountains.
Yeah, that
What's
one.
the name of that?
Yeah.
It's
We're,
like a tiny little country
Yeah,
that's
I'm on it.
smashed by.
I'm as
Are you
American
Googling
as you
this?
get. I know jack shit about Europe.
There's a tiny country in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
hitchhiked all the way up there and stayed in a park for a couple days or whatever
Oh,
before
okay.
I ended up catching a bus back to Barcelona and then a bus to Poland because I didn't want to hitchhike anymore. And then I also did a little hitchhiking in Scotland between Stirling and a little town called Dundee.
Okay. So,
Yeah, so
and
just
then, so
just
what,
enough
what
to
was
make.
what was the reasoning for the trip to Europe? Just to do it, just to get away for a bit.
Yeah, it was pretty cliche. Done with college, backpacking in Europe and cruising hostels in Europe was what it started out as, but then it got wilder. Then I started to get jobs and settle down in different places.
Yeah. Okay.
It started off like, oh, I'm arriving in Paris and didn't have any. I was just a guy at a hostel in Paris,
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of
And then
working, when you were when you were traveling in Europe, what were you doing for work when you were traveling around the U.S.?
it was like the odd jobs I mentioned. Mainly, I would get work while I was hitchhiking in Northern California.
Okay.
And do like a between 6 weeks and 4 months, and then I had no problem traveling the rest of the year.
Really? Okay. So just off of what you could make in that 6 months, you could
Yep.
travel the rest
Yeah,
of the year.
yeah. I would show up in the fall. You know what I mean? I'd show up in like the end of the summer, and if I was lucky, I would try to work until like Christmas time
Yeah.
or maybe Thanksgiving. Sometimes I'd even like catch a plane home for Thanksgiving, and that was like a 5 of the years. I did 5 seasons out there, and that
Okay.
was really good. Traveling around different members of the same family, pretty much for the most part. I only had to hitchhike for work the first year, and that took me about 3 weeks of just random hitchhiking on dirt roads, and had a bunch of adventures out there. And yeah, so but I got other jobs too. Once I was passing through. I was coming back from another rainbow gathering in a place called Cuba, New Mexico,
Hmm.
and I went
confusing
through
at all.
Taos, which is still one of my favorite cities. Have you guys ever been to Taos, New Mexico?
Mm-mm.
No.
Never been to New
Really,
Mexico.
really special
Nope.
place. It's if you go to New Mexico, go to Taos. Go to Santa Fe and go to Taos. Taos is a city that's special because they have an ordinance that you have to build your buildings out of, I think, stucco.
Okay.
What
Mm.
like the no, not stucco.
Plaster?
The no, it looks like it's padded mud. What's it called?
Padded mud.
Just look up Taos house. Look up Taos house. This is
Taos
gonna kill
house.
me. What is Taos? What's every house
Are you
made
sure
of in
it's not
Taos?
stucco? I think that's what it's
No.
that like decorative.
I'm sorry to get stuck on this, but it's driving me crazy.
That's
It's like
okay.
that brown padded mud. Anyway, every building in Taos, New Mexico even like the McDonald's and stuff has to be made out of packed mud. And there's a really beautiful community out there in the, Taos is a town that's surrounded by open space. And in the boonies of New Mexico, you find a bunch of people that are building what they call I think like earth ships, right?
Earth ships, yep.
They're little tiny sustainable
just
homes
found them.
in the deep desert. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up what they were made out of, but yeah, earth ships
Stucco.
apparently were.
Is it stucco? Did I say stucco? I already said
said
stucco.
stucco the
I
first
think it
time,
actually
yeah.
is stucco.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Let's look up any picture of downtown Taos, and you see that every
Yeah.
building looks exactly the same.
Yeah, they all kind of look
And
like
and it's
brown.
beautiful,
Wow.
and I love that town. And I was chilling downtown there, and I met this guy who was a leather worker, and I was like, "Oh, I really like those shoes you're wearing, and I would love a pair of those shoes." And he made me an offer to become his leatherworking apprentice in exchange for my own pair of leather shoes that I could walk away with. And I did very little work for him in the end because he started every single day with an AA meeting. He went to an AA meeting every single day, and then he dropped a ton of acid. And he was just one of those guys that did acid every day, which
Yeah.
I didn't even know was really a thing at that point. It freaked me out
No.
so much, I didn't stick around. And then I got robbed in that town, and I was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked that didn't happen more often. Like you running into people where you were just kind of like, they make me uncomfortable. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I wanted to
Running
Go
into
ahead,
some of
sorry.
those like career hobos that I'm sure you cross paths with. I'm sure some of them have kind of lost grasp mentally just from being like that for so long. Was that
Even
the
Cajun.
case or
Even Cajun went off the chain sometimes.
yeah? Well, yeah,
He got loud and angry. He surprised me with anger sometimes. But yeah, I mean, the like other travelers, but also non-travelers that I would run into that interacted with hitchhikers for whatever reason that had issues.
Like folks giving you a ride, or just people just giving you shit when they
Yeah.
saw you? People giving you a ride?
People giving me a ride. So like one guy, I actually think when you told me you were going to interview, when you told me you were going to ask me about hitchhiking, I told you this story, I think. But there was this, I got picked up by a guy who told me the story of being a child molester. And
I don't
think I
heard the details of this one.
oh really?
Yeah, I feel like I
Okay,
remember
well,
that.
it's a really sad story. I was coming from a town on the border of Texas and New Mexico, and I think it's called Texaco or New Mexis or something. It's called a joining of the
of the
two
two.
names.
something very on the nose. Yeah.
It is, yeah. If you look at a map, it'll be obvious. But I was coming from there, and he picked me up, and there was already another hitchhiker in the car and two dogs. So the guy who was driving the truck, it was a Bronco. He had a dog, and he had already picked up another hitchhiker who had a dog. And 3 years later, I ran into that other hitchhiker again, which is a completely different story.
That's
But
wild.
that night, the three of us stopped at a bar and had a couple of drinks. And the guy driving the truck had way too many drinks. So I was driving the Bronco, and the Bronco had no air in the tires at all. So have you ever driven on the interstate speeds when there's no air in the tires?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
start to overcorrect. And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
keep overcorrecting, you're going to roll it. Like, because it swings in a way that tells your brain to jerk the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that started happening, he could see what was I was driving, and it started happening. He grabbed the wheel and held it straight, even though I was aiming for the ditch, and it wobbled its wobbles out. And he was like, "When it starts to wobble, you have to hold it straight." And that was actually a really useful lesson. And I hope that
Yeah.
if anybody's, first of all, fill up your tires.
Yeah.
But if you're ever like that, he told me this. I at that point I was in the middle of a hitchhiking race, so I was trying really hard to beat Jack. It was the same Jack, back to Colorado, and the only rule was, we were hitchhiking from um, San Antonio via Lubbock. So he picked me up. Yeah, I stayed one night in Lubbock, and then I made it to the border where he picked me up. And he gave me a ride, but I was driving the car all the way to Denver. And while I was on my way to Denver, that's when he told me the story of when he was a little kid. It's a really sad story. I'm going to try to gloss over as much of it as possible, but his uncle abused him, uh, sexually abused him,
Yeah.
and molested him and made him do stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's like, at one point in the story, it took this horrible twist where he's just like, and then you know what happened when I got older? I did the same thing. You know, he just like told it. He was really opening up.
Yeah.
And he was breaking parole on that ride. And the other hitchhiker in the car who he had a speech impediment. He spoke exactly like Elmer Fudd. Did you know that every single Looney Tunes character has a speech impediment that is from real life, including Sylvester the Cat and Porky Pig and Elmer Fudd?
Yeah.
Like, they are all mocking people with disabilities. Okay. I'm not joking.
No,
They all are
Yeah.
very,
Yeah,
very
I never really
unpleasing.
thought about that. Yeah.
Like Suffer and Succotash. But this guy was Elmer Fudd. I'm not going to do an impression because it's so wrong, but just watch some Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
He talked exactly like that. And this guy was like shutting down. He was horrified hearing this story. This other hitchhiker. That guy eventually passed out while I was driving. So I just kept driving. I drove through the night into Colorado, and I parked at a 7-Eleven in Denver near the train yard, because the only rule of our hitchhiking race was that you had to ride a train into Fort Collins. So I parked him at a 7-Eleven and left him sleeping there with his dog. We had already dropped off the other hitchhiker in Castle Rock. And I went to the train yard, and after a long time, I won the hitchhiking race against Jack, which is one of my great claim to fame in my whole life, actually.
Well,
I beat Jack by
congratulations.
14
moment.
hours.
14 hours?
Yeah.
14 hours, damn.
What was he
Yeah, I
doing,
know,
right?
yeah.
Dragging his feet.
He was trying, yeah.
Yeah, he needs to step it up.
That's the only. He beat me every other hitchhiking race. One time we had a hitchhiking race from St. George, Utah to Las Vegas, and he beat me by a mile because his method at that point was to run down the interstate until he was so desolate and dangerous that people felt awful for him being stranded out there and
Yeah,
would pick him up
they just
immediately.
feel
I wasn't willing
obligated.
to go out, and I wasn't willing. That's the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
I was not down to go out there.
Yeah, that's a
yeah, he always
go
beat
out and
me.
not come back kind of place.
Yeah.
He was wild.
So why did you have you lost contact with Jack?
No.
You're still in contact with
You
him?
should talk to him.
It's been a little while since we talked, but he would pick up the phone. Oh no, I texted him actually last week randomly because I was hanging out with my sister, who's good friends with Jack.
Yeah.
My sister actually traveled to Maine with Jack, and my sister and Jack's future wife got jobs picking blueberries on blueberry farms in Maine for a whole summer once. It was one of my sister's big adventures.
Yeah.
Damn.
So she like busted out a picture, and I texted it to Jack just the other day, and he loved it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It
Yeah.
was really fun.
No, it's nice to hear that you guys are still in contact.
Yeah.
So what did your parents think about all this? You were just getting out of college, and you're just like,
It was
Hopping on trains and
Yeah, they found out about that like halfway through it, and
really?
yeah.
What did they think you were doing?
So
You just
that's what I was
disappeared.
going to ask.
Traveling like normally, like normal people travel or something. I don't know.
Not hopping
I
trains.
think they knew I was hitchhiking, but hopping trains they didn't know. And my mom actually found out I was hopping trains because one of my friends. It's like this weird coincidence. My mom was working in a lunchroom at an elementary school, and she knew this little boy who was my friend's sister's son, and he knew all about me and my adventures and thought they were so cool and started telling my stories to my mom.
Oh God.
Oh,
And my
man.
mom, and I didn't stop then, but it got a lot harder because I couldn't stand the way it made my parents feel if they didn't hear from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they would just feel awful if they didn't hear from me all the time. So I was just in a lot of contact with them. But my parents were extremely accepting. And on one of my big trips to Tennessee, even drove me down to a place outside of Denver where they dropped me off on the side of the road to start my days long journey to Tennessee. And then while I was on another trip in Northern California going north to south, I met up with them on one of their, sort of fancy trips while they were traveling around and staying in hotels and stuff. And I
That's
met
great.
up with them for dinner,
Yeah.
you know.
When you were just out there trapping it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really
super
close to my
cool.
parents even now. I see them all the time. We're
Are they
really
still
close. And
Colorado?
part of Yep. But they travel a ton. And they're really close with my son George now, and they come over every week, and we just got done camping.
Oh, that's beautiful.
One of the reasons I'm close with them is because I kept going back to live there up until I was like 37. I would spend time living there time to time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, just figuring it out. I get it. That's nice to have that, though. It's nice to have that family unit
Yeah,
there.
really
yeah.
lucky. I did not earn that, and a lot of the people around me didn't have that. But my parents always welcomed me back.
Well, good, good. Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
you didn't take advantage of their hospitality and their caring and love for what you were doing. It seems like
No.
you were respectful of it. So that's
Yeah, you
I was
did
a
your
good-
own thing
I
and
was
you
a
went back
good
when you
roommate.
needed to. Yeah.
I was a good roommate when I was there.
yeah. Well, that's good.
That's for sure. Yeah.
That's good. OG, did you have any questions about traveling? I didn't want to get off of traveling if you wanted to jump back to it for any reason.
I feel like I've been rambling a lot. I feel like
Yeah.
this has
That's
been
what
a
we
No,
had you
that's-
on for. Yeah, we had you here to ramble.
I don't think you understand the amount of hours that a lot of us would be willing to listen to you ramble about this shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because it's so fascinating. As somebody that literally bought the house that I grew up in and have never lived outside of the same county in my life, just the thought of
that's
just
so
hopping
cool.
on a train and
Yeah,
just going and being like, I think I'm gonna go south today. Like
Yeah.
it's such a foreign, like fascinating concept that it's so interesting to hear.
It was really good. It was really good for me, but don't forget that people that live that life are like even it says it in the podcast or whatever, that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's fine to have an adventure. It's fine to love adventure and to seek adventure, but people that do it long term, something's wrong. And
Yeah, I think you
know,
said it
I
was like they were
wasn't-
running from something or something like that.
Yeah, there's
Searching
like
for
a-
something, yeah.
core distraction element to the surprise of constant adventure.
Yeah.
And that that's a piece of it. So it's not like romantic. It's not the romance that you might think if
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not the fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's not a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, I'm sure the reality of it is a lot different than like the cool stories and the random encounters and stuff, but just the mindset of being able to do that is so foreign to I think a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree.
So
Well, let's get up to date with Jesse P. Speaking of
All right.
videos and everything else, I saw you and Nightwing put a video out recently. It's doing well. Congratulations
Yeah.
on that.
yeah.
Thanks.
So what's the plan with
Thanks, I'm
that?
stoked on it.
For those who don't know, it's a build video that you
Yep.
and Nightwing did. Nightwing mainly did. You kind of narrated and helped film.
Yep, I filmed it. I edited it. I helped him. Because when we're filming that, yeah, it's a video where you turn. I think I have it here. You turn the new, Beta FPV Air 65 from 17.1 grams to under 15 grams. It's just how to shave off a bunch of weight.
Yeah. So
And people loved that video.
is there a
It's
plan
very
to
interesting.
do more stuff like this in the future?
That's my whole thing. That's my whole aim right now. And I'm once again like kind of pot committing by talking about it on your show because it's been I've been driven to make content for so long and just struggling so hard to get to that point where I can do it.
Yeah.
When Tinywhoop started, I was part of a 3-man show and I didn't run the retail store. I didn't like do any paperwork. I didn't manage inventory. I didn't manage employees. All I did was content. All
Yeah.
I did was fly Tiny Whoops and edit videos.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of how Tiny Whoop movement became strong. And the YouTube channel that led to the retail store and all that. But then I became everything, every part of the retail store too. And I probably said this in the last podcast, but there's absolutely nobody, no little kid is like, when I grow up, I want to run a retail store.
That's,
Yeah.
that's,
I'm
that's
going
the
to
big
buy
dream.
stuff
Yeah.
from all over the place and sell it to people.
Yeah.
I love my
Track of it
job
all and-
so much. I love my job so much. But there's like parts of it that definitely suck.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
like managing inventory is not fascinating.
It's not.
And
No.
I've never been
No.
good at it.
It's very
I've
boring.
never ever been good at it.
Yeah. It's very tedious
so-
and super easy to fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's fun parts though. I love product development. I love the relationships I have, like, because it's like fairly social. I think I'm the kind of guy that was supposed to run like a local coffee shop,
I can
not
see
an
that.
anonymous online store, not like
Yeah.
Yeah.
not a faceless store. So I try really hard to make my business the one with the most sort of face to face vibe, even though it's completely faceless.
Yeah. I think it
And-
is though. I mean, because your
Yeah.
name's right in the title of the store. Like when I see Tinywhoop, I think Mr. Tinywhoop. I don't think
Well, yeah.
just a
And then,
random
like-
company. I think you. So I think you've done a pretty good job at tying yourself.
Yeah. So
as the face
so
of the
right now,
company.
just to finish answering your question,
Yeah.
Peter's here and he's terrific. I have somebody named Kaylee who's here packing orders. You may have seen Order Packed by Kaylee, or sometimes she signs it Ruby. And now starting Tuesday, actually, it's Friday now. Sunday morning, Custom FPV is getting in the car and driving all the way to Colorado, moving in with Peter, and he's
No shit.
becoming he's becoming the Tiny Whoop content schedule manager. to
That's awesome.
Force content to come out. He's gonna do a whole bunch of like jobs.
Yeah.
He's gonna do orders. He's gonna do maybe a little customer service. He's gonna do like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But he's already done so much with tinywhoop.com. He did all the fleet boxes. He designs and manufactures those.
Yeah.
And those are like, everybody has those now. Like they're super, like there's so many of those in the wild. And he's gone to school for I think industrial product development. I think
Okay.
just some level of product development, and it shows that he's a genius.
Yeah.
I am so excited
Oh, the boxes are nice.
for him to join the crew. And so that's what I really want to do. I really want to make content, and I want the content to be about people. I want it to involve Tiny Whoops and involve the gift of flight and how much joy that brings to people and the community that comes from that. But I'm ask any one of your friends, and the best part of FPV is the people, is
Yeah.
your friends,
yeah, absolutely.
and the friends that you made from FPV. It's just like this obvious truth, and I want to make content around that.
Okay.
But
All
we'll
right.
see how it goes. We'll
Is
see how
there-
it goes.
is there-
Check back
is-
with me.
Is there any teasers of ideas?
Sure.
of-
I mean,
of
well, I
things
mentioned
to-
earlier that me and Peter just walked all over for 3 days. We took 3 afternoons walking
true,
around
yeah.
Loveland,
Yeah.
asking for permission to fly in different places and just gathering content, tons of content. And tomorrow morning, another teaser. I'm going to the Tour de Fat, to the biggest costume bike parade in the world, where I'm going to be sitting on a trailer, on a chair, on a bike trailer, while somebody's got an electric bike, driving me through the crowd while I'm doing pack after pack.
That's so sick.
railing. Yeah, I did it last
so
year, and
sick.
again,
Yeah, it's
got
gonna be a lot
screwed
of
by
fun.
the recording thing. But yeah, sitting on a trailer and then just FPVing the bike parade is an unforgettable experience. So that
sounds
I'm
amazing.
have to do content, and I'm taking all my new camera stuff, and we'll be talking to people and having a party. And
Is
yeah,
Peter
so
going with you to that?
Peter's at Woodstopia, so he can't make it.
Oh shit!
Yeah, we should shout out everybody. If anybody is at Woodstopia
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
now, that is an epic event that I'm bummed to miss. But it's a bunch of
Right.
homies out there in the woods, flying in the woods, mini quads, and yeah, Peter's at Woodstopia, Dan Sagano, Pickle Rick, they're all out at Woodstopia right now.
All the homies.
Yeah. Yep. So Peter's missing it. He's really bummed to miss the running of the bikes or whatever, but I got a couple other friends that are coming over.
Okay, sweet.
To fly. So Mike Chen, aka DeBits, he's a
Yeah,
local
the
guy.
bits is cool. Yeah.
You know him. He's gonna be
Yep.
driving the bike that I'm sitting in the trailer.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Tomorrow
Hell
morning.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you can trust him.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
the trailer has a really high center of gravity, really narrow wheelbase. Like you can't turn that thing. I was like, you may not scrape my FPV and goggles down face along the pavement. Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna
So yeah, we'll
be
see how it
careful
goes.
with you. Precious cargo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and flying from a moving vehicle and trying to fly as well. That's a whole other
That's a fun one.
kettle of fish there too.
Although, have you seen?
Have you done it?
Yes.
Have you seen the
Hell
dude
yeah.
that rode in the back of the train in New York and chased it with a whoop through the tunnels?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
He's on the train and he leaves his whoop on the tracks behind the train. And when the train starts moving, he's following behind the train going through the tunnels. And then when they get to the next stop, he like pulls up and lands, and you see his girlfriend run out and grab the whoop and bring it back into the train.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love this guy.
Yeah, that's
I
gnarly.
want that.
I'll have to find the pilot's name again. They submitted a video for last Saturday's stream. We watched it. It was really good.
Oh, that's cool. No, I haven't seen that.
Neat. I'll DM you the name of it if I find it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of
Mike
projects,
Pilot.
Jesse, how's the Furby onesie coming?
Oh yeah.
The Furby pelts?
Furby onesie. Oh my god, my Furby pets. Yeah, they're in the garage. I never made a Furby onesie.
Damn it! All right. I was hoping it was.
I still
in
have,
progress.
you know,
The disappointment
probably
is real.
2 dozen. I'm sorry. I still have 2 dozen Furby pelts, or a few more that are still kind of like not removed, live Furbies, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Ungutted.
yeah, it's on the top of the content list is to make a Furby fly. There's the original Furby from 1998 had a version called the Furby Mini, I think, or Junior, Furby Junior.
Mm-hmm.
And that one you could fly on. This is a Pro, what is it, 75 Pro?
75
So it's
Pro,
bigger
yeah.
than a 75, smaller than an 85. This thing could carry a
Nope.
Furby Junior.
Oh.
Lost your camera again.
Hold on.
I think I have like two or three. We have like 2 or 3 of those Furby Juniors upstairs that one of Britt's friends
You got
got
the
for
right
us.
microphone?
Yeah.
We're missing out. Prime content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prime
When we grab one,
content.
I'll steal one.
Yeah.
I got your audio back. Now I'm working on my video.
Hey,
Got it.
there he is.
And he's back.
I didn't click anything.
I know you had both your hands.
There is
were
a
visible.
ghost in the machine. Yeah.
It's Discord. They just don't like us.
Anyway, this thing could carry a Furby Junior, and that's one thing I want to make happen.
Okay.
Is like that. That would be
flying
such an
Furby?
awesome thing too. Yeah. Or like this. What's this? This is like a Pavo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A FPV Pavo that could lift it. I think this has got big motors.
So if you didn't hear, I'm pretty sure that my wife has a couple of Furby Juniors upstairs that one of her friends got her. So we're gonna have to. Maybe we'll do a Furby Junior
Let's do
battle.
a challenge.
We'll
Let's
do a battle.
challenge. We'll both make a Furby Junior fly, and I guess do a battle, FPV Furby battle, or we'll do a race. It'd be fun to storm a
Oh,
crowd.
a Furby
Like, this
race.
thing- you gotta skin it, and like remove as much plastic as you can. So it's and then let's just storm a crowd.
Have you
With
seen
these things like screaming and talking.
Have you seen the little speakers? I don't know who did it. Somebody on Facebook.
Oh, with the
posted a
F1
picture.
speaker. Yeah, the F1 sound.
Somebody put a little speaker on a whoop. If we could put a speaker behind the Furby Mini and have it scream while it's flying forward into a crowd, that would be epic.
Put
Yeah,
some
man, absolutely.
put some LEDs in his eyes, light it up.
Yeah, I just want him to scream.
A little demonic Furby
yeah.
screaming at you while you're flying by.
That'd be a great collab right there. You guys do a Furby, Infane Loops does a Furby. I'll do a Furby. Tinywhoop will do a Furby with my crew, with Peter and Noah. Maybe we can get someone else to do a Furby. I don't know. Anybody out there want to do a
Change the
Furby?
game though, and definitely do Furby person view content.
Oh,
Yeah. Did you wait? Are you talking about the Furby I made?
Furby person view, just us in general. Just do FPV.
It's still
Furby
FPV.
person
Oh,
view. Yeah.
change FPV to me. Yeah.
No,
I don't-
not the one
I
that you
skinned-
made with the FPV monitor in it.
Eyeball.
That's also awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no,
I
that
was
one's
thinking
super cool.
the last time you mentioned that, why don't you sell a limited run of those and just make like 5 and just sell them for
Furbies?
and just sell them for like
Limited edition Tiny Whoop Furby.
a stupid cover your
$1,000 a
cost.
piece?
Yeah, just cover your cost and a little more for your time. But I mean, how rare is that, and how cool would that be to have like a custom built Furby from Tinywhoop? You know, tag it
It
up,
would
get some
be-
custom Tinywhoop decals to put on it or something.
I can't imagine that being worth it, but I do feel like this is kind of your way of asking me to make you a Furby.
It's a Tinywhoop thing.
It's a roundabout way.
It's 100% a tinywhoop.com thing.
All right, listen. I'll try to make you a Furby heads.
I'll pay
but
top
no
dollar for
promises.
it.
Like the itinerary is slightly stacked right now.
I will pay top
But
dollar.
I
for
would
a
love
Furby.
to make you.
I'll put him right here in the
Furby.
background. He can yell at
Oh,
stream.
totally.
I bet
Yeah,
you
would
we
you
could
leave the
even get.
speaker on?
We could, yeah, of course. We could get Mars to make it scream stuff at chat.
I bet you could like get one of the geniuses in your audience to make it the robot lady.
That's what I'm
Make
saying.
the robot
yeah.
lady.
Yeah, Mars is the one who. Have you
that'd
heard
be
Robot
good.
Lady V2 yet? The second version we're using.
I think so.
So Mars.
When did it start?
You met Mars in Colorado.
Yeah, I know Mars. He's Colorado.
Yeah.
He lives in Colorado.
He
He's a badass.
Yeah, he is. From the ground up, rebuilt Robot Lady, like from scratch, and it's its own thing now. You can change the voices. Like chat has total control over what voice they use and everything. It's way more customizable.
Oh, I have experienced that.
Than the
yeah.
last version.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want.
He's a
I
fucking
want
genius.
to. I haven't learned how to operate it. I want Teehee because I was there the night Teehee was first
Born,
introduced.
That was with the pitch shift. We haven't figured out how to do that part yet. Well, I think we know. We just haven't implemented it yet. But yeah. The Teehee, that'll come back too. That'll be back really soon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to
Also-
throw it out to chat. I'm sorry, just real quick. I'm going to throw it out to chat real quick. If you guys wanted to drop any questions for Jesse, let me know. I will pin them and we will ask them.
I'm gonna try to see if I can pull up the chat on one of my monitors
Okay.
here
I
without
was just
screwing
gonna
up
let,
our internet too much.
Let you guys start doing that. And then what were you going to say, OG? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I just had to double check to make sure I was remembering custom FPV as the right person, but his new series that he's doing recently, the small space whoop racing series that he's done, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I
love it.
I've been watching them when I'm seeing them, and yeah, that's
That's custom FPV doing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing a series, small space whoop racing tips. First one he did was on like
Ladder.
practicing ladders. They did one on practicing dives. They did one on like just general track building for small areas. The type of shit years ago, but he did a really fantastic job at it.
Are we getting
Is he
tiny
cutting
Whoop
out for-
onesies for adults?
Ooh.
I'm down. If you want to like wear it to a big event or something, I'll make it for you.
I will wear a Tiny Whoop onesie at the New York race next
You
year.
can make all black onesies that say in big white, would have the white logo on the back that says Tiny Whoop. I would wear it
Yes.
every event I go to. Or even coveralls. You know, like they wear like mechanic coveralls where it just has the little Tiny Whoop patch.
I will purchase and hand make that for you.
Don't do that.
If you're really gonna billboard, I mean, how is that not worth my time?
I think it's worth.
I think the
time to make
Furby's
it
obviously a yes as well. But yeah, you guys got it. Yeah, any
Yeah.
if you guys, if you're gonna show up at one of the big 4 races and bust a full body, or like maybe a mankini, I would also do a mankini.
Well, let's
for any.
Yeah.
Let's baby
pump-
steps.
pump the brakes,
Baby steps,
yeah.
Let's start with a
Baby
whole lot of
steps,
clothes
okay.
on, and then we'll work on taking them off.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't started the OnlyFans yet.
Jesse, how much more aerodynamic is a Whoop frame with the arrow facing forwards?
Much less, unfortunately.
It's much more. Okay, cool.
Whatever. I mean, I'm a tail in the back kind of guy. Some people like tails in the front.
Yeah.
And
I considered it
yeah,
like it was like my beak. the beak of my bird was going in the front. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't see it
Yeah,
as a tail. I
it could
guess.
be your beak. It could be your beak or your tail.
Yeah. Who am I to judge?
The only real reason I'm arrow backwards is because I got to get Peter's back. I got to back Nightwing as my bro, and
I feel you.
if he says it, it's just the truth, and everyone else is wrong, unfortunately.
I
That's
just
fair.
settled the debate and started running my arrow to the right.
Nice.
I just chopped mine.
I
off.
love that Beta
Yeah.
FPV made the
Bind and fly
crunch.
with the back.
No, they made
April Fool's
a April
post.
Fool joke
where it had
Oh,
arrows on
yeah.
all sides.
Yeah.
reference Captain Crunch berries. Remember Oops All Berries?
Yeah.
That's what that joke
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
The oops all arrows.
Oops, all
Yeah.
arrows.
What kind of Chinese company knows those references?
I know, dude. They
Like-
crushed that one.
Incredible. Yeah,
Um,
they crushed that one.
Why don't my whoop fly like a 5?
That's
No answer. Typical.
yeah, I don't know what to say. I laugh just as hard as Heads does every time someone says their whoop flies like a 5-inch. So
Yeah, it's always funny. It's never not. Has the new beta FPV releases been better from a defective item standpoint?
jury's out. You know, if you ask
Too early
me,
to tell.
if you ask me, it follows the same cycle. A new model comes out. The testers test it, and the early release people make their YouTube videos, and there's a ton of excitement. And then, some guy has 2 of them in his fleet go bad. And like, first it starts with like, yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Is I guess my short answer.
Okay.
First of all, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people talk about it. I mean, you have your personal experiences, Head, which I defend, and they are true, like, obviously. But some of the flack is just flack. And sometimes there's just extremely loud, angry community members, which I have been that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely been that guy that's like, I waited for this, I saved money for this, and what the F? It's not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to wait. I don't want to send it in. I don't want to do anything. I'm just mad. Like, I definitely understand that. You know, as somebody who, like, in my career has had to ship, I know what it's like to wait on whoop parts. I know what it's like to have shit go wrong, and it does suck. And yeah, there's some projects in the works right now. I mean, you're probably more aware of them than me. Like, people trying to make real quality stuff. You guys remember Alien Whoop?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Alien Whoop was like thicker traces, higher quality components all around, actual attention put into making it so QC was like through the roof, and it was brushed. It was like they never got to the point of brushless Alien Whoop, but that was a really cool project. And yeah, there's whispers of other projects like that, so I think it's coming. But I also think when it comes to the Air series, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I don't think we're not at the stage in the release pattern where we would be hearing tons of complaints. You know.
Well, I know they're
Thousands-
already having VTX, output issues, so that's
I saw
already
the 4-in-1.
questionable.
I think the 5-in-1. I think I heard that it's okay. I thought.
Yep, I got a 5-in-1 here, and
I thought that the
I
output
actually
on
just
that
built
was
it.
alright.
You want to see the one I just built? Hold on.
Yeah, sure. Did you hear that too, OG, or no? You looked
I-
like you heard different.
I don't
just built
remember.
up the
They were talking
5-in-1.
about it a few days ago in the Weebly chat. But I don't remember
Okay.
if they said it was.
I could be wrong. I could be remembering this wrong.
They said it was fixed.
Okay.
They said, first of all,
Okay.
all the 5-in-1s have 0 issues with output variance, and all future 4-in-1s
I've heard they've updated it.
have.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been
4-in-1s.
updated.
Okay.
Yeah, here's the one I just built.
So quick fix. That's
I'm
good.
really
to know.
proud of this.
Very bright. Holy
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I
Got
like
this.
that.
Got the stoop canopy on there.
Yeah, man.
It's got the.
You can't really see. This is the new pigtail, which is a 90 with it's a PCB. Let's see here.
It's PCB on it. I
Mm.
see.
PCB
Heavy.
90-degree
Is
with
that
LEDs built
lighter than
into it.
having all the plastic material from the 90 on it normally?
Way lighter, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that. Yeah, it's a little
Really
thin
cool
PCB.
design by Black Horse, one of the pioneers of ultralight flight. And then yeah, I'm stoked about this thing. I built it right before this. I set the clothespins on the LEDs right before.
Okay, so you
I
haven't even
started
made
Nice.
that yet.
This has not flown. I haven't even plugged it in yet, so it doesn't smoke. I can hear tones from the motors. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Probably nailed it. Probably nailed
I
it.
think you
Yeah.
probably did.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Aside from family, what motivates you? You seem so driven.
It's hard to start that with aside from family because now, before I had a family, I first of all was much less driven, and now everything is about George. Everything I do is about Caitlin and George because it's such a, when you're an entrepreneur, you look at your actions and there's a straight line to
The reaction
George,
to
my
it.
son's
Yeah.
quality of life.
Yeah.
There's like a really straight line, and if I am just screwing off, it's like obvious impact. It's not like I'm gonna crash and burn if I take some time off, but I want to give so much to my family.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm motivated by in the beginning it was really the community and the excitement of watching the community grow and the way innovators started pouring out, and I watched the Tinywhoop movement become a freight train with absolutely nobody at the wheel. No single person, definitely not me, just this mass this viral idea that everybody was getting into, and nowadays it feels more and more like that with whoop being in every school in the civilized world,
It's
and
really
more and more people
taken on
aware
its
of
own,
whoops.
its own life.
Yeah, and people, when people used to talk about me driving the boat, I was like, "You're crazy. No person can do that. It's just it's a meme. It's a viral idea."
You set a little paper boat in the water in like a little stream, and it is now like a fucking cruise ship
Yes.
out in the
The
middle
current
of the ocean.
took off. Yeah.
It's in the whitewater now.
But
yeah.
it
Yes.
did start somewhere, and you were at the beginning. You were there, whether you want to take claim for that or not. The story is the way that it is. It's if you're at the forefront.
Sometimes
you're at the forefront.
Sometimes I'm amazed and inspired and motivated by the community. Sometimes by competition, doing something wrong that feels wrong and feels like it's sort of blasphemes the original direction of the community. Sometimes I get motivated by that. Sometimes I am, trying to have fun, desperately trying to have fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm trying to get over a problem. Like it took me the first couple invitational races were giant projects I took on as a distraction from stuff happening in my life that I didn't want to think about or face, you know? So there's that too.
And the invitationals are back in full swing.
Not full swing.
Not full
swing?
Okay.
So the Invitational evolved into pretty much the Tinywhoop Open, but I am wanting to do more races this season and going into the future.
Well, if you don't mind me saying, I would say that the Tinywhoop Open that I was at I would say that's full swing.
Yeah.
I'd say that's back
pretty
in
full swing.
Yeah.
That was an insane looking race. That was an insane looking race.
It's going to evolve a lot from there, but thank you so much.
Well, that's amazing.
I think
to hear
that the
gonna
course
evolve even more.
Well, I am going to a big part of the Tinywhoop Open project is I'm communicating with every single pilot that was there, and I'm asking them exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give that to them. You know what I mean? Because I can't stand the feeling that I'm making the race of my dreams, not the race of the pilot's dreams.
Right,
and sometimes I started to get that fear a little bit here and there. Because coming out of the last one. It was an unbelievable time. Nobody will ever forget the time they had there. The race was great. The Whoop House was legendary.
It was all of it. Yeah, the whole trip was incredible.
The FOMO
But
was
now,
real.
we missed you too, dude. We missed you too.
Next time.
Yeah, there's just a handful of Northerners that need to make it. Swifty is solid gold. I just love this guy so much, and when he's at an event, it just all feels better. I love this guy, and
Yeah.
I was so bummed when he missed the Air Force race this last year, and then couldn't get to a couple other things. I know life happens, but yeah, there's like a hardcore crew out your direction. But speaking of, so just to finish the invitational thing, I am hosting an invitational race on September 7th, so like a little over 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
At a brewery. It's not going to be gigantic, and I think I've only sent out something like 30 invites, a handful of local guys, and a bunch of really cool people traveling over here to do it. That's going to be a fun race. Peter Nightwing is doing a race in California in October that is looking like it's going to be outstanding. If it's as good as if it's looking like I'm going to go to that.
Okay.
But I'm also making plans in November to spend Thanksgiving in Boston, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try to get the crew together over there. Like, just even if it's a casual fun fly, just to like, find a bar that's chill about it and all meet up, or have what could be called an event or not.
You said in November?
And just, late November.
Yeah,
so like
I'm
within
not
probably
too far of a
with
drive from Boston. That's a drive. I'm
now we're talking. Yeah, I'm thinking like within 5 days probably of Thanksgiving. So that's going to help some people and hurt some people.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing my whole family to Boston for Thanksgiving because that's where Caitlin's side of the family dwells.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah,
Nice.
that's my next question.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I go to Boston every single year.
I love
and
Boston.
I've fallen in love with Boston's the shit. It's so cool. So I'm gonna do I want to do a meetup with a bunch of people. I want to do take my brand new fancy 360 camera and my other cameras and walk around, like maybe with one guy, maybe by myself, and just see what kind of places I can whoop.
Yeah.
And get kicked out of a couple places. And
that sounds fun, man. Get yelled at in that old
make it a business trip. Make it a business trip. Business expense.
Well, and then the New England guys are great. The New England
yeah.
pods, that's a great bunch.
Really strong community.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
Yep.
crew. I met a couple of them in New York.
Yeah.
Speaking of, are you going to be next year? Are you going to be in New York beginning of next year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll see you.
Of course, I know.
Yeah.
Is it
Absolutely.
possible to get 40 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter shaft props in multiple colors? Seems only blue and black dominate. Didn't you have some clear ones you were dyeing? Clear props?
I'd have to look. I don't remember
smoke?
specifically 40 millimeter. I've definitely dyed tons of clear props.
Okay.
Thousands and thousands of clear props. I don't remember 40 millimeter 1.5.
They make like a smoky. It's like a
white, smoky
foggy,
white.
It's like a foggy white color. Yeah, I thought they made a 40 mil.
I mean,
But I
look
don't
at
know if it's
this.
1.5 millimeter motor shaft.
What the heck is this? So this could easily. This is the Air 75.
Yeah.
You could easily get a 1.45 millimeter drill bit and convert these.
True.
Yeah.
You can get that bit anywhere. And if you want, I'll dye your props any color you want.
Hey, there you
Send an
go.
email to the team.
All right, cold front
I'll
penguin.
dye.
There you have
I
it.
love dyeing props. It's my second favorite form of procrastination.
Can Mr. Tinywhoop make some tiny business cards used to measure out 2.4 and 5.8 antennas? Like that has the measurements on it.
I'm just gonna write that idea down.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea.
That's a package.
Or maybe
stuffer
make
there.
a sticker or something.
Ooh,
yeah.
or a magnet.
A magnet too. Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, magnet's a good idea. So you could
Do
take
a
it down
magnet.
off your.
Oh, do you guys
Yeah.
want to see the latest magnets? I just got some new
Oh,
magnets.
absolutely.
Of course. Market
Silly
Zero.
question.
Good call, Market Zero. Thank you, bud.
They're smaller. They came in smaller than I thought.
Oh, that's cool.
I like it.
Stay alert. Tinywhoop aircraft at low altitude.
Yeah, dude. I love
And
the
then
magnets
this
that
one-
you always send.
This is Peter's sort of idea.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's have a tostada to the good times.
Yeah, I like that one.
And it's just a tostada with a tiny whip and a margarita. It
And that's
barely
a
even makes sense.
magnet.
Yeah, these are magnets.
Okay, yeah, those are sweet. Well, look forward to those in your upcoming Tinywhoop orders.
Yeah, they just got in today. One of my biggest sticker orders and magnet orders ever just showed up today.
Well,
Pretty
there you go.
stoked.
You jot that idea down to measure out
Yep,
2.4
I
and
got it right here.
5.8.
So help people cut and make their own antennas. I
Their
don't
own
think there's a
antenna length.
huge. Yeah,
I get
I don't
asked.
think there's a huge.
I get asked
people doing this.
all the time of people saying I broke my
Okay.
ELRS cube off the ceramic antenna, and they replace it with a metal wire. I broke my UFL off, and I need a VRX, so they just solder on a piece of copper wire. People always ask me how long does the copper wire need to be, and I can never remember. I always got to ask somebody else because I can't keep track of the numbers. But
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, there
it's
should
not
be
bad
a business card.
It's
or
not
like,
a bad idea.
how about just on one of the cards I put in an order, just like
Well, yeah.
on a card like this that goes
Like
in
how-
order.
Like
Yeah,
how
so I
Race
mean,
Day Quads
print
had
print it on
the
the
thing
back.
with the VTX, the frequencies on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Newbie Drone does that too.
Yeah.
This is a good, interesting question. How would you feel if George grew up and was riding trains? Would you encourage that, or would you probably not? I kind of know the answer, I think, because just being a
Yeah.
dad, I kind of know the answer.
Yeah.
No way, no
Yeah,
way.
dude.
Yeah.
I'll tell
It's
my
like
son to,
it's
"No
like
fucking way."
serious risk of death. It's
Yeah.
serious risk of death, and I'm ashamed I didn't take that seriously.
You
It's
gotta get that
absolutely
life
out of the
experience,
question.
though.
It's no, it's
No,
it's
you
it
for
was
you,
a really
for you.
not even for me.
If you didn't do
It
it,
was a
you
s-
wouldn't be here like this.
I'm
today,
not
though.
trying to
Sure
be that
wouldn't.
old guy. I'm not trying to be that old guy, but it was stupid. And I would not if I had a little more wisdom, I would have realized that do you want one more quick story?
Sure.
Here's a small one.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm traveling with the greatest adventurer in America, Jack Wilson. No, his name's Jack McGurk now.
Okay.
He's like we're on our way to Denver on a train. It takes 4 hours from Fort Collins to Denver, even though it's a 1 hour drive. And the train stopped on a sidetrack in the middle of nowhere. And Jack was like, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to lay under a train, let it roll over my body,
No
and then
thanks.
get out and hop back on the train. And I was like, please don't do it, Jack. Please don't do it. But I already knew he was going to do it. And he got out of the train and went under and laid under this train that could start moving at any moment.
God.
And he laid there until he was bored enough to come out.
Jesus.
And then we looked at the back of the train, and the back of the train had a cattle guard that dipped way below the tracks.
Oh man.
Like nobody in the world can lay on the tracks
Yeah.
and come out the other side in one piece. It just does not happen.
That's so scary. dude.
And that would have I can't imagine. I would be a broken person if I had that experience. You know,
yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
and my best friend would be gone.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
fucks
so
you up, for
there's
sure.
just a million different ways that you don't know you're on the edge. It feels like it's not like that, but unfortunately it is.
Well,
Yeah,
now that you're on the other
George
end of it,
will
though,
never.
now that you are on the other end of it, you are glad that you did have the experience, but you wouldn't encourage anyone else to go do the same thing because of the danger.
I'm glad I got lucky.
Yeah.
Glad I got really
Yeah.
really lucky.
For
Okay.
sure.
That's a good answer. I like that. Will there ever be a freestyle whoop event that would include multiple themes, smaller scale of rampage?
That's cool.
Hmm.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about
Like a freestyle meetup.
I mean,
or like
Rampage.
a big gang meetup. Yeah, where you just have a whole bunch of
For-
freestyle pilots
For
come
whoops.
in. And yeah, you rent out like a indoor location somewhere that's got just mad stuff to do.
totally. Yeah, it's got to have a big enough campus that there's more than one,
Area
more
to
than
fly.
4 pilots in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like an event in a city, and in that same city, we get 4 bars across town on the same night that are all down, and we install stuff or 4 locations. Maybe one of them's a bar or something.
Yeah.
And we let people just hop to different places, and then what? Content competition? I don't know.
You had an
Maybe a
interesting
vote,
idea
community
that
vote?
you kind of did at TWO too, which was the scavenger hunt, which I always thought was a good idea.
Oh yeah.
The freestyle,
Yeah,
the
to make-
freestyle scavenger hunt would be a cool idea.
Yeah, that's a really good one where you just like the point of the scavenger hunt idea was to force people to do daring gorilla whoop activities they would never
Uncomfortable
do
stuff.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Which I love. But
the example you had given us was, I think it was Swifty you were talking about, that flew a whoop and
yeah,
landed
that
on
was
a
in
cowboy hat.
Ohio.
Yeah.
Somebody offered him $50 to do it, and he did it.
And he did it.
He
No
was
hesitation.
like, no problem. He flew right over there, landed on some legit guy's legit cowboy
Yeah.
hat,
Yeah.
and he didn't love it, but I think he got a free beer out of it or something. But I just love that he did that immediately. That's the best part of I said it all the time. Tinywhoop was born in the after hours of real events, and that's where it deserves to live. That's the
Yeah.
reason Whoop House is so important, because the shenanigans are they're the heart of the culture.
You know, you had mentioned
Swifty
that
gets
to me
that.
when we were talking, doing your interview portion for the TWO documentary, and you had said something that I clipped out and I made sure to keep because I think I even used it in the opening of the documentary. But just talking about how important and how like pivotal the Whoop House was to Tiny Whoop culture, coming from the mini quad scene, that racing scene, and having like the
Yeah.
after hours Tiny Whoop time, and just like how
Yeah.
much fun that was, and just keeping that fun spirit to it and not making
Yeah.
it all serious. And yeah, there's just something
Yeah.
about it. So the being at the Whoop
Pilots
House
want-
was a ton of fun. It's
Yeah.
like nothing I've ever
It's
experienced.
really what's up. Yeah. One of my favorite experiences ever was with Cody Matson, Code Red FPV. We were at a Whoop House in California. We just stayed up late into the night trying to balance potato chips on our tiny whips and face punch them into our mouths. You know. But you know, that's the way, that's the tiny whip culture I grew up in, but there is a really serious racing side of it now, and events tend to focus on that. So I don't mean, for me, Tiny Whip was always so casual.
Yeah.
Like to think of, if you would have asked me about a serious competition of Tiny Whips back in my mini quad competing days, I would have laughed you off the stage. It would just be a total joke.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still laugh a little bit because it does start to feel kind of silly. Like,
yeah, I mean they're toys at the end of the day.
yeah, but pilots want that. Pilots
Yeah.
want that, and that's a huge part of the culture. No matter what kind of tiny whooping you like, the serious racing scene is a huge part of whoop life now.
It is.
So,
Yeah, but then you go to the Whoop House and you got you
and you go to the whoop house.
line
Yeah,
of sight brushed quad trying to face punch.
yeah, man.
Driving the little truck around.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
truck.
What is your most treasured whoop or quad that you have built or owned? I would assume it's your first.
I have Estes Proto X, which is a tiny line of sight quad. That was my first quad. My dad gave me that. I've got it framed.
Yeah.
I have two tiny whoops that were built by Benedict Hawk, who is the Micromotor Warehouse, the godfather of micromotors, and he supported Tiny Whoop in a huge way. I still have the first Tiny Whoop that I made, and several that were made like within a few weeks of it. I think my favorite is always the one that is my main ride at the time, and I'm really hoping it becomes this one. But it's currently this one. This was built by Nightwing, and it's just a 65 ultralight Meteor airframe. I died,
Oh, yeah.
and it's
Clean
got
build.
27,000 kV positronic motors. It's actually broken right here, right now.
Oh yeah.
And this is the one that when you this is I'm just in love with the squad. It's just so fun. It's light, it's powerful, it's agile, it's an extension of my body. This one's been really fun. This is the one that got axed,
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way.
Oh, is it?
It's got before they were released, this is the prototype RC and Power 702s.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, this gigantic light. And this light still lights up, I think, even though the board is cut in half.
Oh shit.
You see
Yeah.
Jesus, that's cool.
Super bright.
Cobb LEDs on there.
Um,
Oh, and here's one of my favorites. by Whisker Whoop. This one's. I've got these LEDs called whiskers
Oh
that
yeah.
just dangle
yeah.
all over.
I
Yep.
love the
Yep.
whiskers.
Yep.
Those
And
are the
it's got
best.
a rainbow up close.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
one more I'll show off. I'm just going to show off a couple whoops real quick.
sure.
This is one I spent a ton of time on. Hard to see, but
Oh,
it's
that's
got
sick. That's
LEDs
super
on
sick.
antlers.
Yeah.
I had to like wire the little LEDs all along the thing.
I like that one.
This one you don't need to plug it in, but it's designed in
Oh,
this centerpiece, the
that's
camera
cool.
mount, designed by this really cool pilot in Japan who
That's so
just does
sick.
tons of these. He's got like one that's sushi and just he loves making his art fly.
I like that one.
This is some prototype LEDs that didn't end up working because they were just too fragile. They break, and so
Oh
you
my
can't
gosh.
quite
Shit.
see what's happening.
Oh wait,
But if you
Yep.
move it, it like draws stuff.
Can't
It
you
like
get it?
draws.
can't you get it to actually write stuff like words will run around it?
Yeah,
I saw one of those.
Yeah, that's
in,
what
in
it-
Colorado. I think Blue Jay had one.
that's a
Of
different
course.
one. That was Brazen's.
Oh, brazen.
This one version I actually developed at the same time independently. Here's a really cool one. Circle
Oh,
Whoop,
shit. Yeah.
designed by P Mantix, which is a really cool 3D printed frame that actually uses filament to make the guard and is more bouncy and
Yeah, that's neat.
I think
Yeah,
really
that's super
relevant
cool.
to like maybe schools that want to do their own stuff. Those are just the ones in reach.
That's okay. That's a good
Yeah,
that's a
but
good answer, I'd say.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I would
Yeah.
say so.
Can we get your thoughts on Parkour Guy's buddy using M3 X20 screws as transmitter sticks?
I'm not familiar, I guess.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Do you have background on that?
I do not.
You
Okay,
mean just like using like literal screws?
Using
Into the radio?
Yeah, using M3 screws as opposed
As-
to
Okay.
stick ends.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I got giant hands, so I think if I didn't have huge hands, I probably would be a pincher. But I'm a thumber and I use really long sticks, so I have tons of range of motion. So when it comes to stick ends, I just want them very long.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
we
that the
spoke about that last time. Actually,
Yeah.
you were just starting to experiment with the longer ones.
Oh, cool. Love it long and thin.
All right. Have you trademarked your Woody Allen jacket yet? That's from Kiz Bartlett. Just in case you needed to
man.
know that.
What's up, kids? I have not. In fact, I just ruined it, and it's in the garbage.
Oh no.
I have. Oh, it was when I was moving. Some sort of cleaning stuff got dumped all over it, and it was just completely bleached and ruined. So
Damn
That's
it.
unfortunate.
it's gone. The era's over. Yeah.
Boo.
Indeed.
Make sure I didn't miss anything else here. 3D print file for that.
Crazy to come on a podcast about my life is Tinywhoop now.
Yeah.
And it has been for a long time. And it's crazy to come on an FPV podcast and spend so much of it talking about a past life that is so far gone now.
Well,
Well, it was so
unbeknownst-
intriguing.
Unbeknownst to a lot of viewers of this, the main focus of this actually wasn't ever to be a FPV. I feel like enough podcasts and shows have pilots on and all they talk about is FPV. And I feel like sometimes it's more fascinating to learn about the person before FPV or outside of FPV, like the other side of it. And you especially, your other side, I think besides Eve, you might be the most interesting person we've had as far as having a second story to tell. Eve was a pickup artist before he started.
Yeah,
fractal
we gotta
engineering.
get him back on and get more into that too.
So
but,
I
yeah.
definitely want
I've
to
read a little bit of those books. I've read some of those books. Yeah,
He was making the content. He wasn't absorbing the content.
Oh, cool.
Oh, he was
That's
he was
cool.
teaching it.
Yeah, he was teaching people this. So I really want to learn. I really want to learn that story.
That's so cool.
I think he was still in France too when he was doing it. I'll have to ask him. But
But we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot of cool stories. Like, you know, everybody we've had on has had some kind of
That's what
story
I was gonna
or thing
say.
that was like, what? Like that's
Yeah,
nuts.
when
Like,
in the early days when Team Big Whoop was starting to travel the world, I was always just saying, you know, if you like if you have a FPV friend and you don't know what is just completely messed up about that person or weird or off the wall, you just don't know them well enough yet.
Yeah.
It was just how I always talked about it, like that, and maybe everybody's weird. Everybody
Their
has a big
own
long
unique way.
backstory,
yep.
Yeah.
every but it just really felt like that's what was drawing me to the FPV community early on. I love flight. Flight is so important to me, but yeah, just the weird characters and the friends you make out of Whoop House or Drone House was
It really does attract all different kinds of people. The more
yeah, really very different. Yeah.
this year, especially for me, it's my 4th year in FPV, but this was the most eye-opening year for me, just with the traveling that I did, meeting so many different pilots. It's
Yeah,
the
man.
most pilots I've met in a year, and I probably met over 100 pilots this year, just traveling and talking with people, which I'm sure
That's
you
awesome.
can relate.
Well, yeah.
But it was really
For sure.
eye-opening because I just talked to so many of them. I interviewed tons of them, and I learned so much about these people that I was like, I have no idea. Like, some of these people are engineers, and some of them are like grocery store cashiers. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
we run the full gamut here, which I love.
All
that.
different ages.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy too. You got kids,
Yeah, that's true.
single digit age kids all the way up to 50, 60 something year old people all out here because we love the same
Still
thing.
racing,
doing
yeah.
the same thing.
Which is even crazier.
Yep.
Seeing like 13-year-olds racing up against like 60-year-olds is wild.
Yeah.
But it's just FPV, man. It's just the beauty of it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I really do appreciate you coming back on and sharing that part of your life with us. I can't
My pleasure.
express this enough that more episodes of Stories from the Road in the future, when you have the bandwidth,
Yes.
man.
I'm co-signing it.
should come out. I think it should happen.
It's hard to, it would be cool, but like my time has to be rationalized right now.
I feel you.
And
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I want to focus, like right now I want to focus on interacting with people through Tinywhoop and telling the story that way.
Yeah.
And I hope to do that in a new way and do a good job of that. That's like where I want to focus now. I would love, yeah, like we said before, to revisit that, but it would have to it would be such it would really be Jesse taking tons of time off that I shouldn't take off. It's
Yeah.
a real problem. Maybe one day.
That's what I
Maybe
mean,
one day.
yeah.
Or maybe there's
Maybe one day. Let's not take it
Yeah,
off the table.
maybe
Is
one-
all I'm saying.
No. At the
I'm not
very
taking
least,
up the-
at the
keep
very
our
least, the
hopes up.
bear riders.
yeah.
We at least
Yeah.
need the bear riders. Yeah.
You got to keep our.
It's like, how do you find that? You got to scrub so many SD cards to just
Yeah.
find.
That's
the
a lot of
right
work.
ones,
That's a lot of work.
Oh, 661 before we left. 661 wanted to know, what radio are you using, Jesse?
I'm just transitioning to the pockets,
Hey.
but I have a
I got one right here.
yeah, that because my whole thing is a tiny bag right now. So I have a bag that's like I thought it was near me. Yeah, here it is. This bag is gonna fit all my aircraft, all my filming cameras, my transmitter, my goggles, all of my batteries, and a big battery to charge everything is gonna fit in here. So to do that, I just got for some reason I had a FR Sky pockets and I didn't want to do a module, so I got this new ELRS pocket, and all of my filming stuff is really tiny. This is the biggest camera I have, and it's pretty thin. And yeah, I'm just reducing everything to a tiny bag that has everything I could possibly need.
Okay.
That's the kick I'm on right now. So I could just move easily in and out of places and keep trying and knock a lot of things out at once.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
That's a good goal to set, though. Just get all your shit into one small bag.
I've always
Tiny
wanted to
bag.
do
And
that.
then yeah, I'm doing a challenge with Peter where we agree to never go anywhere without all our flying gear.
That's
So I just
That's a
have
good
this bag
challenge.
on me. If
Yeah.
I go to a grocery store to get some popcorn, I'm gonna just roll with this bag.
what OG and I need to start
That's
doing.
how the wildlife. There's this class of Tinywhoop pilots that always have wildlife encounters. That's how they do it. They have it on them, and they drive past
They're
a
just
bald eagle on
ready
the
to
side of the road.
go.
They run into a moose, but they got their batteries charged already.
Yeah, they're ready
Yep.
to
You
roll.
know, that's
Got to
how you
have your
find
go
those
bag.
experiences.
Yeah.
Your go
Your
bag, your
your
whoop go
bug
bag.
out bag. Yep.
Well, as far as for you, thank you again for
Yes.
spending the
Thank you so
time
much.
Thank you, man. My pleasure.
and kind of giving us a peek into that time in your life. I know there's probably we only scratched the surface. It's hard to travel that often for that many years and not have more stories, I'm sure. So maybe another time we'll revisit this. But for now, keep your eyes peeled, everyone, on the Tinywhoop YouTube channel. You can find that on just YouTube, searching for Tinywhoop. They got content coming out. They already have some up there now to check out with Jesse and Nightwing doing an ultralight build. If you happen to pick up one of those Air 65s from Beta FPV and want to make it a little bit lighter, check that out. Also, just check out tinywhoop.com. Find fun shit for your whoop. Make your whoop fun again. You know, don't take it so seriously. Put some LEDs on it. Put some blinders on it. But other than that,
blinders.
Jesse, is there anything else you wanted to plug or say, or floor is yours? No pressure.
No, I got nothing.
Well,
Okay.
I have one more thing that I wanted to ask about Tiny Whoop related, but the text message based customer service thing that you guys are
Oh
trying out.
yeah,
Oh yeah, good call.
it's actually yeah. So it's um. I think I'm gonna do it. 4404 whoop 4. You can text that number with any question anytime. I'll probably end up having my team answer it about as often as we would answer emails. But I just kind of hate emails, and I don't like. I think a lot of pilots don't have email in their life.
I'm
Like,
terrible at checking my email.
what percentage of tiny pilots do you think religiously check their email once a day or twice a day or something? I just don't
Not
think it
many.
happens. I
Yeah.
think text
Yeah,
message
not
is a
me.
smarter way to do it. So I did just get the phone number 4404 whoop 4. The 3 whoop 3 guys are like, what the fuck? In Denver, there's like 3 whoop 3 is like the big club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. And I think, that's part of the transition when custom comes to town, and I actually have a dedicated device. This is it. This is like a special phone with a whoop on the back, and
Nice.
this is always logged in, and I'm gonna kind of pass it around with my team and try to take customer service to another level. But I'm really tempted to even take that step. We did a test. It went great. A bunch of people helped us test it. We made a bunch of friends. The question is it a responsible use of time? I think it is, and I think that it's like the kind of thing that could set my customer service way apart if I could pull it off, but I can't tell if it's like a stupid move to do because I love making friends, but I have to keep my productivity at the top right now. So
Yeah.
I'm nervous about losing productivity, but I really want to do it to the point where I invested in a cheap smartphone and got the number going on my shipping computer. It's always on that screen. If somebody texts,
Yeah.
it comes up
Yeah.
even now.
I think as long as you're paying somewhat attention to it, people are using it appropriately,
Yeah.
and you're answering it. You don't really have to be super professional. I guess it's a little less formal to do it via
Well,
text.
yeah, that's kind of the whole
You don't have to
point
sign
of it.
You know, you don't have to sign it or every message and all that. It's a little
Yeah,
less.
and that's kind of our style already.
I
Yeah.
like that though. I think
Um,
that actually fits the business really well.
It makes the customer service interaction feel more personal.
It does seem more seamless too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
having to bounce emails back and forth is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
it's slow.
It is.
It's so slow.
And again, you
this
feel
whole-
like you have to be formal, like you have to write thank you at the end,
Yeah.
Jesse, at the end of every single email. It's just like it's not necessary when you're in a conversation.
Yeah, and it just feels like a lot of customer service is just trying to satisfy that ticket for the day.
Yeah.
And then like come back 24 hours later and it just feels like it's moving slow. We don't take that approach, but that's like my reaction to customer service in general. If I have an issue with something, I send an email, and in 24 hours, suppose I send an email, get a reply. If I reply back, it's not going to be an instant reply. Like
No,
I feel
no
like
shot.
there's this
No.
culture of satisfying the inbox for the day.
Right.
by the customer service team, and that's why I really got into it. That's why the whole idea started. But yeah, we'll see if it actually happens.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to launch it within the next week, and people watching this in the distant future can tell me if it worked out.
Yeah, leave a comment if
Yeah.
it worked.
Because
or
like
not.
somebody's gonna rewatch this and like text 4404 whoop 4, and yeah, that idea was stupid, Jesse, or something. So we'll see. We'll see.
No.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to mention there, OG. Good call.
Yeah, it's a
Yep,
good
yep.
little plug. I should have thought of that. Thanks, OG.
No, you're good.
What's the next live event you're going to be streaming from? Do you know that you'll be hosting?
It's either gonna be if I the question of the invitational may have a very like primitive stream.
Okay.
It may not even have any commentary. Nightwing's birthday race in California, which is mid-October, will probably have a stream. And
Are you going to be trying
yeah,
to stream
that I
through
don't
the
know.
Tinywhoop channel?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna let them decide.
Okay.
I'm gonna let them decide,
Okay,
like
cool.
usual.
All right. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody has any other questions for Jesse, I guess just DM him because we're gonna call
Just
this
text
one-
me.
Yeah, just text him.
Just text him. There you go.
440-4 whoop 4. All right. Well, yeah. Again, Jesse, thank you so much for your time, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
My pleasure. I love coming on the show. I love hanging out with you guys. You got an awesome community. I love your audience. You know,
I know
all
you're
the badasses.
You're a humble guy, and you don't like to hear the praise, but you are a pivotal piece of this puzzle of FPV, and we really do appreciate you hanging around and being the anchor that you are.
Hey, back at ya, gentlemen.
Yeah, man. All right, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night for our normal Clips show, but for now, that will do it for us here with Jesse P. and OG. Until next time, thank you, everybody, for watching. Adios.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thanks again, guys.
Have a good one.
Adios.